Upon his arrest in May, Matlala allegedly spilled the beans to investigators about who he was paying for protection. Oren Singh takes a look at some of Matlala's claims.
At the top of the list with alleged links to criminally accused Vusimusi Cat Matlala sits suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection Shadrack Sabir. Matlala claims to have paid Sabir at least 3.5 million rand in cash in several separate payments. This includes a 2 million rand payment for Sabir to purchase a plot in Midrand to convert into bed and breakfast under the name of his wife. Witness C, a detective who was part of the team who arrested Matlala, says the tender tycoon admitted that Sabir assisted in securing his 360 million rand SAPS contract.
After each and every payment by the SAPS for his tender, then a portion of the payment will be given to General Sabir. And he indicated that sometimes he will pay to the total amount of 1 million a month.
Matlala further claimed he paid Sabir 300,000 rand in cash as a wedding gift on the day Sabir's son got married. Oren Singh, Eyewitness News.
The second suspect, who is believed to be the mastermind behind the shooting of 7 teenagers in Westbury, is set to appear in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court today. The 35-year-old was arrested last week for alleged links to the attack that claimed the lives of 2 boys and left 6 others injured. He's the second suspect to be arrested in the matter after a 20-year-old linked to the shooting was also arrested last week. Ntokozo Khumalo reports.
On the 22nd of October, a hail of bullets was fired on Crossier Street towards a group of teenagers between the ages of 14 and 19. According to the police, the teenagers were approached by 4 suspects on foot carrying firearms. Last week, Friday, the first suspect appeared before the Johannesburg Magistrate Court. His case was postponed to Thursday for a bail application. Meanwhile, the alleged mastermind will be at the same court for their first appearance today. Ntokozo Khumalo, Eyewitness News.
Mourners at the funeral of 2 cousins killed in Pretoria have called for more to be done to deal with gender-based violence. Baliseng and Siamo Moramaga were shot by a man believed over a week ago. They were laid to rest in their hometown of Groblersdal in Limpopo over the weekend. Jabulile Mbata was there.
Family and friends bid an emotional farewell to the cousins on Saturday, with many heartbroken by their lives being cut short in what they've described as a senseless killing. Known as extroverts who are full of life, their loved ones say the women were determined and saw education as a tool to better themselves. Limpopo Health MEC Diegetseng Mashego.
But let us continue to say no, not in our name as men. Let us continue as women to say we support other women. We ensure that we are our sister's keeper.
38-year-old Tebogo Mnisi has since been arrested on charges of 2 counts of murder. Jabulile Mbata, Eyewitness News.
And US President Donald Trump has repeated his threats of a military operation in Nigeria over killings of Christians after the Nigerian presidency suggested a meeting to resolve the issue. In an explosive post on his Truth Social platform on Saturday, Trump said that he asked the Pentagon to map out a possible plan of attack in Nigeria 1 day after warning that Christianity was facing an existential threat in Africa's most populous country. Nigeria, which is almost evenly divided between a Muslim majority north and a largely Christian south, is embroiled in numerous conflicts that experts say have killed both Christians and Muslims without distinction. Nigeria has denied that Christians have been targeted by jihadist attacks more than other faiths. Asked by an AFP reporter aboard Air Force One if he was considering US troops on the ground in Nigeria or airstrikes, Trump replied that it is still a possibility.
They're killing record numbers of Christians in Nigeria, and they have other countries very bad also. You know that part of the world very bad. They're killing the Christians and killing them in very large numbers. We're not going to allow that to happen.
Gold is trading at $4,011.41 an ounce. The rand is at 17.29 to the dollar, 22.74 to the pound, 19.96 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $65.18 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got an accident reported on the N3 North near Marlborough Drive, delays from Vincent Chabalala Road. There's also queuing traffic on the Mike 1 North between the Klani Bends and Greyston Drive, while heading towards the city of Tshwane, delays on the R21 North approaching Olifantsfontein Road due to roadworks.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 21 and 22. The top story in EWN this hour: suspected criminal Vusimuzi Matlala's web of corruption in the SAPS is set to continue to take centre stage at the Matlala Commission as it hears about the businessman's links to several senior police officials.
EWN, in touch, in tune and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 9 o'clock. Dumelang, happy Monday. Welcome to the show. I hope you had a wonderful, wonderful weekend, and I hope you're ready for the week ahead. Thank you for being with us here on 702. What did you get up to this weekend? Did you watch the Proteas in the Women's Cricket World Cup final yesterday against India? South Africa lost by 52 runs, but what an incredible match all round, according to the analysts. Did you watch the game, and what did you think? I also thought the New York Marathon was fascinating. What a nail-biting finish. People are fast, eh? Congratulations to Kenya, because it was a Kenyan double yesterday at the New York Marathon. Benson Kipruto from Kenya finished the 42 Ks in 2 hours, 8 minutes and 9 seconds. And Helen Obiri in the women's finished in 2 hours, 19 minutes and 51 seconds. Did you watch the New York Marathon? Let me know what your thoughts are. Remember Sheperd Bushiri, that pastor that fled South Africa with his wife to Malawi back in 2020 while facing fraud and money laundering charges in South Africa? Well, a court in Malawi has set aside a court order for the couple to be sent back to South Africa for trial. So it's basically victory for them. But Bushiri has also made some serious claims about our law enforcement officials. On Friday, he accused senior South African police and Hawks officials of demanding a 12 million rand bribe to allow him and his wife to stay in the country.
The threats of our lives and the demand of money began to grow. It was in this moment when we were also visited by one of the police officers known as Mr. Paul. He was, I think, a Captain Paul, who said that the General of the Hawks, a department which these 4 police officers were coming from, would stop our case if we would give him something. I remember some of my team members going to have a meeting with this fellow general, known as General Sibia. So much money was collected in the name of this general to stop this case. Instead of the general to stop the case, so it was corruption after another corruption. Problem, you go to the authorities, they also are demanding for something, to end something. I remember my team having a meeting with the then General of Hawks at his farm several times. Having meetings with him at his residence in Silverton several times. An attempt for our justice failed.
Yeah, so there's so many concerning things listening to that clip. So first of all, I think he actually, maybe he doesn't realize it, but he is seemingly admitting to being involved in bribery here, because he says so much money was collected. Did you hear that part? Why was money collected by law enforcement officials, collected from a man that they were trying to prosecute and send to jail? He says he met with General Sibiya at his farm. The assumption here is that he's referring to the Deputy National Commissioner, General Sibiya. By the way, we did ask General Sibiya to come on the show this morning to tell us if he's met this man before, if he's met with any of his associates, what relationship he has or had with him, and he wasn't able to come join us on air. He says his lawyers have told him not to speak to anyone, not to speak to the media. So we're unable to figure out if indeed he has met with Bushiri or his team members, because the suggestion from Bushiri is that he has, if he refers to this Sibiya, who is the Deputy National Police Commissioner. But first of all, listening and hearing what we've heard at the Matlala Commission around how Sibiya may in fact have purchased a farm, right, in a suspicious way, knowing where Sibiya is based at his residence in Pretoria. How concerned are you about the fact that our cops, and I'm moving it now from General Sibiya, how concerned are you that our very cops may have been involved in helping this man escape? Because how is it that to this day we still don't know how this man left this country? It just doesn't make sense. The same way that Tiger, the kingpin, illegal miner, the police helped him escape, and that's it. And probably in 3 years' time, just like we are talking about this in 5 years' time, since Bushiri left and we still have no idea how he left, maybe you and I in 5 years' time are going to be talking about Tiger. Even though there are some people who are apparently, being held accountable, you arrest some officers here as if this is not possibly a call that came from above. And I worry that in 5 years' time, we're going to be talking about Tiger the same way we're talking about Bushiri. Because it looks like these people have had connections and links to some really, really powerful law enforcement officials who've allowed them to commit the crimes they've committed. And in this case, for Bushiri to escape without being noticed. So he says so much money was collected. That to me suggests that there are monies that were paid by Bushiri and his associates to try and get these law enforcement officers off their back. Which to me then says you yourself then are corrupt because you paid these bribes. So when you say money was collected, unless you're saying that that was under false pretense because you wanted to catch them doing the wrong thing. And if you really caught them doing the wrong thing, have you opened the case? That's not the suggestion I got from him. Let me know what your thoughts are on that on 011-883-0702 as we start with the 702 open line. The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. At 10 o'clock, we are going to focus on the African continent. There are really disturbing developments that we should pay attention to in Sudan, in Tanzania, in Nigeria as well. I mean, across the continent, the political and social landscape is shifting, and some of the most striking developments are happening right now in these countries I've mentioned. I mean, look at Nigeria. You've got President Donald Trump, who is now accusing the Nigerian government of failing to protect its Christian citizens and place the country back on the US's country of particular concern list for religious freedom violations. And he's been warning of possible military action if the situation does not change. Nigeria's leaders have since rejected the characterization and stressed that any foreign intervention must respect their sovereignty. So we'll have someone in Nigeria chat to us about what's happening there. In Tanzania, there were general elections, as you've seen, on October 29th. And since then, there have been mass protests that erupted when key opposition candidates were barred from the ballot, and the ruling party declared a near 100% victory. I mean, you look at the capital, Dar es Salaam, that was hit by violent unrest. A curfew was imposed, the army was deployed, opposition parties say there are hundreds of people that have been killed, while government insists the figures are inflated. Many are, in fact, feeling that the country is now at a crossroads. There's no access to the internet, roads remain blocked, and it's really concerning. So we'll give you the latest on the situation in Tanzania. In Sudan, the world is watching with alarm, really, as one of Africa's worst humanitarian crises deepens. I mean, months of brutal conflict between rival military factions have displaced millions. It's threatened regional stability, and it's raised some really difficult questions about international intervention and peace aspects. In fact, what is the role of the UAE in Sudan? What is the role of Manchester City in Sudan? So that's what we're going to try understand at 10 o'clock. And then at 10:30, we're going to continue with our series that we started a couple of weeks ago, looking at South African wars. It's like a history lesson of sorts that I've really enjoyed. We started with the First Boer War to understand what that was all about. And then last week we discussed the Anglo-Zulu War of 1879. And today I want us to discuss the Second Anglo-Boer War. In fact, this year marks over a century since the end of what was really one of the most defining conflicts in South African history. So we'll talk about that and what that was all about and how it ended. And then at 11 o'clock, we're going to wrap up the show with our Family Matters feature. Today, we're discussing financial abuse in family relationship. This pattern of behavior where one person tries to control another person's access to or use of finances. And in fact, financial abuse happens when someone controls your money, stops you from being financially independent, and in some cases prevents you from earning your income. And this kind of abuse within the family structure is one of the most hidden, and yet it is so destructive. So I want us to look at how you deal with this kind of abuse, especially in a family setup. That's going to be our conversation at 11 o'clock on our Family Matters feature. That's the show coming up over the next 3 hours.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
Hi, Clement. I would just say that the Hawks is a criminal cartel itself. It's a criminal syndicate. They are just everywhere. Everywhere you hear Hawks, there's Hawks that their name is just in criminality, in extortion, in protecting criminals and everything. The serious and violent crime unit as well must be dissolved. The Hawks and the serious and violent crime, even the IPID, they must just be dissolved. And actually the police minister itself, the police commissioner, must just resign and put Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi there so that he can do everything. Look at how many people are dying, how many people are extorted. Do you understand? This is just embarrassing. And unfortunately, I feel like I do believe Bushiri now. Also from Naledi.
Good morning, Clement. Yeah, that was my thought exactly. That when I first heard this thing, that Bushiri is saying he was corrupt as well. So they couldn't get enough of his money. So he was tired of paying them. So he had to run away. So he was corrupt as well. So he must be arrested in that. That's another charge of him. He thinks that by telling us that he gave them money, it was for him to save himself. If you are a law-abiding person, you don't get into these things. No matter how much they extort you, you report it to the police that these criminals are doing so and so. So he must come back. But he will never come back. And this extraditing thing of South Africa, it doesn't work. Maybe those who gave him passage to run away are the ones who are implicated exactly, so that he just gets away and never come back.
Yeah, this is crazy, guys. The fact that we still have no idea how this man left. There was a story in the Sunday Independent at the time, and I know some people were thinking, this is weird, this is a fake story. But there was a story in the Sunday Independent about how it was a whole operation to get him to escape. Like they even did makeup to try and conceal his identity. a whole thing. You can go Google that story. But in the absence of the police giving us anything concrete of how this man may have escaped, that's why people are going to lend then to conspiracy theories. And I'm not suggesting that story in the Sunday Independent was merely a conspiracy theory. We just don't know how this man escaped. And I think that is an embarrassment to this country. It's just an embarrassment. The same way that we were so embarrassed with Thabo Bester, a man who escaped from prison and everybody thought, oh, he's dead because he died in a fire, only for him to be seen at Woolworths shopping. We must actually do a series on embarrassing things for South Africa just over the last 10 years, because I think it's not that we're hopping on that. I think it's important for us to remember how we were so embarrassed and what we can learn from that so our officials are not caught sleeping. But the fact that to this day we're still talking about a guy and we still don't know how he left is actually quite shocking for me. It really is. And the fact that he's now beginning to mention General Sibiya, that's a bit weird, unless there's a different General Sibiya. Because in fact, someone reminded me that at the time, Sibiya was not even the Deputy National Police Commissioner, because that was what, in 2020? So if really they were meeting with General Sibiya, and it is this general that we know, how was he involved in issues like this when he wasn't even in the SAPS yet? Wasn't he in the city of Johannesburg at the time? Yeah, something is just not making sense here. But General Sibiya is unable to speak to us this morning because he says his lawyers have given him strict instructions not to talk to the media. But I would have loved to know if he is the man that has met with the team from Bushiri, or if he's met with Sheperd Bushiri himself. There's so much rot in this country. There's just so much rot. It's gone beyond shocking and disappointing. It's dilapidating. Because you almost feel like, is it even possible to clean house? Because how do you clean house? Sure, you want to start from the top, but there's still rotten apples at the bottom. You want to start from the bottom, but there's still rotten apples at the top who end up corrupting from the top down. Do you think it's possible for us to clean house? And what do you think it's going to take? Because I don't think I have an answer to that. I don't think I have an answer to that. When you have criminals, people who are accused of ordering hits and of killing other people, talking to the top cops of the Hawks and the SAPS, and there's possibilities of monies being exchanged. When that happens, what hope do you have that the house can be cleaned? And what do you think is going to take to clean house? Because I don't think it's going to take just, let's say, yeah, you fire Shadrach Sibiya. Maybe you fire the Hawks head in KwaZulu-Natal. Maybe you fire all these other head of organized crime. All of these guys that are being mentioned in wrongdoing, if the commission finds that somehow they are guilty of what they've been accused of and they recommend that they be fired. Is that cleaning house? Sure, it would be a great step. But is that an overhaul? Is that what is going to reshape and restart this organization, the SAPS, or even some of our law enforcement agencies? So what do you think it's going to take?
Good morning, Clement. Tabisha here from Dunedin. Indeed, that was my first thought. Just when I listened to the Bushiri clip, I think even in the morning when I listened to it from Bongani, he says so much money was collected. So is he saying he bribed them and he couldn't bribe them any further? They wanted 12 million. And then he decided to flee. He is admitting actually to being corrupt and trying to pay off officials and the police. Thank you very much, and thanks for a good show as always. Bye.
Hey, morning, Clem. Over in Fosdoras. Hey, Clement, I don't think this day will ever come where I say Bushiri is right. You know, beside Clement, beside listening to him implicate himself, Let's listen to him again. He's saying, even if you go to the authorities, they will demand something. Meaning, if you go to the so-called the good cops, they will want something from you. If you go to these other ones, you have Sibia, which are the bad cops, they will want something from you. So that is why money was collected, because he say, even if you go to the authorities, somehow, someone, somewhere will demand something from you. So the corruption, it's rooted in, Clement. It's very bad. Bushiri is right. Yes, I don't blame him that he did what he did, because this is what's happening in South Africa. Thanks, Clem.
Hello, Clement. I'm also worried about what Bushiri is saying, but in the back of my mind, I'm asking myself, what if he is lying so that he can use that against the South African government so that he should not be extradited? Thank you. Bye.
Yeah, that's a possibility as well. And I mean, this man could in fact be exploiting the current situation because he sees how South Africans are angry at certain police officers, right, for being involved in seemingly in some criminal networks. So he's trying to exploit that. That could be a possibility. Aubrey on the WhatsApp line says Clement Bushiri was relating to the 2016 events when Sibia was the head of the Hawks in Gauteng. In fact, that's Mandla in Midrand. So maybe what Bushiri is talking about also is the years before even 2020 and what they've tried to do over the years and the kind of relationship they had with these Hawks officers or SAPS officers. That's also a possibility. But whichever way you look at it, yeah, this is a mess. And Bushiri himself, I hope, can be held accountable for admitting, because in that clip you hear him say, monies were collected from us, from these corrupt cops. So they paid bribes. Monies were collected. And I wonder how he's going to try and justify that, because somehow he still always finds a way to justify these things. It's 28 minutes now after 9.
Clement is on X
at The Real Clement M.
So I've got a question for you. Do you follow a different religion to that of your partner or your spouse? Maybe even your friends or your siblings. But I'm more interested in a family setup as to how you manage that. There's been really conversations that have been happening over the weekend following from what the U.S. Vice President J.D. Vance said about his wife, who is the second lady of the United States. And in fact, since yesterday, he's been trying to defend his comments about hoping that his Hindu wife converts to Christianity. Right? And what he said, in fact, let me play you a clip. That will be much better. Let me play you a clip of what J.D. Vance said about his wife who follows a different religion and his hopes for the wife finally being converted to Christianity.
And yes, my wife did not grow up Christian. I think it's fair to say that she grew up in a Hindu family, but not in a particularly religious family in either direction. In fact, when I met my wife, we were both, I would consider myself an agnostic or an atheist, and that's what I think she would have considered herself as well. You know, everybody has to come to their own arrangement here. The way that we've come to our arrangement is she's my best friend. We talk to each other about this stuff. So we decided to raise our kids Christian. Our two oldest kids who go to school, they go to a Christian school. Our 8-year-old did his first communion about a year ago. That's the way that we have come to our arrangement. The only advice I can give is you just got to talk to the person that God has put you with, and you've got to make those decisions as a family unit. For us, it works out. Now, most Sundays, Usha will come with me to church. As I've told her, and I've said publicly, and I'll say now in front of 10,000 of my closest friends, do I hope eventually that she is somehow moved by the same thing that I was moved in by church? Yeah, I honestly do wish that, because I believe in the Christian gospel, and I hope eventually my wife comes to see it the same way. But if she doesn't, then God says everybody has free will, and so that doesn't cause a problem for me. That's something you work out with your friends, with your family, with the person that you love. Again, one of the most important Christian principles is that you respect free will. Usha's closer to the priest who baptized me than maybe I am. They talk about this stuff. My attitude is you figure this stuff out as a family, and you trust in God to have a plan, and you try to follow it as best as you can. And that's what I try to do.
So, how have you figured it out in your family? How are you managing it, especially if it's your partner that follows a different belief system or religious beliefs to yours? Has it been difficult? Because I do find that, even when you go to a church, they'll tell you that do not agree, don't even marry or be in a relationship with anybody who follows a different religion, because there's gonna be a problem at some point. J.D. Vance and his wife, who was raised Hindu, in fact, have not had much of issues. It seems like they've found some form of balance in that the children are going to be raised Christian. But J.D. Vance does admit that he hopes that his wife could be converted. And that is what has caused lots of debate. And I want to know from you if there is that hope as well. Do you try and convince your spouse, your partner, your loved ones to convert to your religion in that family setup? How have you been managing it? If that's the kind of reality you have faced, please share your experiences with us on 011-883-0702. That's the number to dial. WhatsApp's on 072-702-1702. 9:32, time for the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Fiso, hi.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Suspected criminal Vusmuzi Matlala's web of corruption in the SAPS is set to continue to take center stage as the Matlala Commission hears about the businessman's links to several senior police officials. Recent testimony before the Commission of Inquiry has implicated senior cops who Matlala allegedly bankrolled to avoid accountability to a dodgy 360 million rand police health services tender. Upon his arrest in May, Matlala allegedly spilled the beans to investigators about who he was paying for protection. Meanwhile, the DA's Glynis Breitenberg says lawmakers in Parliament will need to toughen up to ensure public officials accused of corruption and maladministration are held accountable to restore public trust in the country's institutions. Breitenberg is among MPs serving on the ad hoc committee in Parliament investigating alleged corruption at the police levels made by KZN top cop Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. And in China, the country has expelled two former senior government officials from the Communist Party for serious violations of discipline and law. The actions targeted the former vice chairman of the China Securities Regulatory Commission and the former vice director of the National Development and Reform Commission. Those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 10 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
This EWN Traffic is brought to you by cars.co.za. Let's find what moves you. Amo?
Well, Clement, we've got delays in Tembisa on the R21 North. This is as you approach the Olifantsfontein Road turn off. That's due to roadworks along this route. There's also queuing traffic on the N1 South between Samrid Avenue and Olifantsfontein Road. While heading towards Woodmead as well as Sunning Hill, do expect heavier traffic volumes on the N3 North. That's due to the roadworks that are taking place along this route. Delays between Vincent Chabalala Road and the Baklu interchange. In the city of Tshwane, a slight backup reported on the R80 East Mabopane Highway approaching Escampahlele exit. Please be on the lookout there. More updates at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Do you want to buy a Honda? Cars.co.za. Toyota or Mahindra? Cars.co.za. Do you want to sell a Cherry? Cars.co.za. Suzuki or Mercedes? Cars.co.za. Polo, Kia, Mitsubishi, Havel, Hyundai, Lamborghini. Buy and sell, it's very easy. All you got to do is type Cars.co.za. 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 Let's find what moves you. Cars.co.za. Cars.co.za.
Africa Milani.
Weekday mornings,
4 to 6.
It was on Saturday, I think, when you issued a statement condemning false social media claims targeting teachers. Who is the source of this TikTok video that is alleging that teachers are required to pay, is it 350 Rand for verification or to deposit money into unspecified accounts?
We just want to reiterate that all communication around the department will emanate from official sources, and we encourage the public to continue to be vigilant.
Terence Kala, Acting Director for Communications, as well as a researcher for the Department of Basic Education.
Africa Milani.
4 to 6 on 702.
This November, join the hashtag Glass Recycling Challenge and help collect 280 tons of glass across Johannesburg, Pretoria and Cape Town in glass recycling banks. Catch 702 in conversation with the Glass Recycling Company this Thursday. Discover how recycling glass reduces waste, creates jobs and builds a secular economy. Don't miss 702 in conversation with the Glass Recycling Company this Thursday on 702 Drive with John Pellman.
Who says everyday driving can't be très chic? Rent premium with Sani 60 now. Own the stylish Citroen C3 later. Yes, that's 3 cars, 3 months, 3 chances to say ooh la la. Just book directly on sani.co.za. Call us or rent at any branch between 1 November and 31 January, and you're automatically entered into the draw. Bon voyage with Sani Sixt and win. T's and C's apply.
There's a song that goes, "Money can't buy me love." And that's true. But then they told us all you need is love, which anybody with a mortgage will tell you most certainly is not true. Love won't pay your parking tickets or your student loan. It's also needy. It requires effort, availability, constant care. But more importantly, love requires time. And while money can't buy you love, it can certainly free up some of your time. Time to spend on the things you love, with the people you love. And if you're looking, maybe even time to find the one you love. That's why, after 50 years of investing, we've learned that time is the greatest gift of all. And the good news is, if you invest early, time gives you money. And then money gives you more time to do the things you love. And don't you love that about investing? Ellen Gray, long-term investing. Ellen Gray is an authorized FSP.
The unexamined life is not worth living. Socrates' timeless wisdom reminds us of the power of introspection. At Plus 94 Research, we delve deep into data, uncovering insights that drive meaningful decisions. Our scientific methodologies transform questions into clarity. Don't just operate, understand. Don't just guess, know. Plus 94 Research, the science of decision making.
702.
WhatsApp Clement
on 072
702
1702.
22 minutes before 10 o'clock. This is the 702 open line. We're taking your calls as well on 011 883 0702. I played you a clip of J.D. Vance, the vice president, the U.S. vice president, and the experience he was talking about with his wife, who's Hindu or was raised Hindu, and he says that he hopes that his wife can convert at some point. And he's received some flack from other people who feel, why must he expect that his wife must convert to his religion? And of course, you know, many of us who come from, you know, certain cultures that believe that the woman must always convert to a man's religion, we've experienced it, haven't we? I mean, there are many of us who've seen our parents, like who used to go to a particular church growing up, and they get married and they have to change that. And in fact, that's an expectation in some, if not most, of, you know, cultures and traditions, is when you get into a family, you take up the religion that that family espouses. So in this case, there's a conversation I'm trying to have with you. I want to know how you've been managing, because I imagine that is something difficult. How do you then decide on where you find common ground? And maybe it's easier for you because your culture dictated that the woman must take up your religion as the man. Or maybe as a woman, you protested against that cultural expectation. How have you managed the differences in religions, especially when you are dating someone or you are married to someone? 011-883-0702. Let's start with your WhatsApps.
Good morning, Clement. Hope you're well. Bible says, don't be yoked to non-believers. God knew what he was saying when he said that. And if we want to take marriage, do it our way, how we feel, what works for us, then we're going to deal with the consequences. But for me, I'm very strict when it comes to that. I won't even date you if you're not a Christian. And not just saying you're a Christian, but your life also needs to reflect that you're a Christian. So if you don't tithe, you don't serve, your life does not reflect Christ, we're not going to go anywhere. Hector in Madrid.
Okay, Hector, thank you so much for that. And I think you've got every right to decide that I want someone who shares this particular value with me, right? Everybody has a right to do that. I do find that sometimes there are people who are uncomfortable with other people's beliefs. And I think the moment you're uncomfortable with what someone else's believes, for me, then I'm starting to even question the foundation for which you are standing on. Because maybe it is shaky. Because why the obsession then to want to convert people? Why are you so uncomfortable with other people's beliefs? On the WhatsApp line, Anonymous says, Clement, I have a similar background with J.D. Vance. I'm Catholic and my wife, formerly Seventh-day Adventist church goer. Unfortunately, she used to criticize my church and I would argue, but it was endless. When we got blessed with kids, I would take them to church and we all got devoted. And then my wife started joining us to church. Unfortunately, she declined to go through all the Catholic process for our marriage to be blessed before. I don't receive Holy Communion. Unfortunately, I have accepted that. So these are the compromises then you would have to make. I also don't think we should be criticizing each other. Well, we can have a conversation, right? There's a conversation we can have about, oh, tell me, why are you guys doing things like that in your church? Or this is how we do things like this in a church. But that conversation must also not be accusatory, where you're now accusing people and they have to defend themselves. But what is it about us as a people not allowing other people to be and believe in what they want to believe in? What is it about us always wanting to convert other people into believing what we believe in? Why are we not comfortable? And look, I get it, and I get that, of course, there are scriptures, whether you believe in, that you look at the Torah or look at the Bible, whatever religious holy book, right, you focus on. And maybe it speaks about the need to talk to other people about your own salvation, right? I get that. But I'm saying that there are some instances where people are so uncomfortable with what other people believe, like so uncomfortable, that when you are married to those people or you're friends with them, it can get to a point where that relationship doesn't even flourish. So how do you balance that? For some people, it's the safest thing is to just date the people who share the same values with you or who believe the same with you. But there are other people who are in love. They fall in love with people who believe differently and they somehow manage to make it work. And I'm asking if that is you, please share your thoughts with us.
Hi, Clement and 702. This is Yolande from Centurion. And regarding this topic about changing religion, I really think that people are unnecessarily overreacting to what J.D. Vance said about him hoping that his wife would eventually change into Christianity. There is no reason to give him any slack regarding that, because it's not like he's trying to force her or anything. It's just his hopes. So people are just overreacting for nothing, And having said that, I also do not believe in convincing a person to change into a different religion. I could come through and give you a great reason to become a Christian, and then today the person joins the Christianity, and then tomorrow somebody else comes with another different convincing value proposition. Then that same person decides to change and becomes a Muslim. I do not think that I actually don't waste my time convincing people into becoming a Christian. That I'm not the Holy Spirit. That's the job of the Holy Spirit. I will just tell you what I need to say, but the decision is yours. I don't really believe in convincing people.
Nelson says, Clement, this religion conversion is real. My cousin's sister was born 100% Christian. She got married to a Muslim guy. She did convert to Islam, and she's happy and happily ever after. That's a message there from Nelson in Sedgefield. You see, sometimes it does work where someone actually finds that this is what I feel aligned to. Another person on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, I'm atheist. My wife is Christian. We married 20 years now with one child. It has never been an issue. As a couple, you just need to be open and honest. My son will also make his own choices as he grows up. That's a message on the WhatsApp line. Another person says, Clement, good morning to you and your listeners. For me personally, I do not think that it will be easy to date someone who believes different than what I believe in. I'm an African traditional healer, and I believe in the universe and my ancestors, and I don't think I'll get along or connect with someone who believes differently and sees things differently. I've tried before, but it failed. I was just not connecting with them, and I believe more than anything, it is about what we preach and believe in than what we believe in than just the relationship ending. So that's what someone says there on the WhatsApp line.
Good morning, Clement 702. I believe that when people want to get married, they should be of the same faith, because this family union they're creating, it informs the values, the ethics, the parenting styles, the ceremonies, or even rituals that are performed within that marriage. And in my experience, a lot of things, or how you relate as a whole in marriage, revolves around your faith. So there are a lot of things that come into play that you need to consider. And I would say to those who are not getting married yet, or who are not yet married, it is the best to choose someone of your faith, because there are a lot of differences that you will encounter in the marriage, and you wouldn't want to bring faith into the mix. It's already complicated.
Part of the 702 family.
Hi 702 lenders, my name is Nontanta Khatebe, and I listen to 702 during the week and on weekends, because on weekends it's the Soul Sundays. Kenny Maestri and Pushada.
Welcome to our 702 family. Let's walk the talk.
Your office is more than just a place to work. It's a reflection of your success. At Desk and Chair, we help you elevate your workspace with locally manufactured desks and a wide range of chairs to suit your style and budget. Our expert consultants are with you every step of the way, from planning to delivery and assembly. Visit our showroom in Midrand or shop online at deskandchair.co.za. Desk and Chair. Think, feel, work better.
If you think you cannot afford a lawyer, think again. Clientele Legal has made professional legal services affordable. You receive up to 745,000 Rand worth of legal services per year. Our range of plans include cover for you, your spouse, children, and extended family. Plans include cover for civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Whether it's protection orders, gender-based violence, uncontested divorce, or poor service, your Clientele Legal lawyer will be there to assist you. Our services are convenient. Simply pick up the phone and call your lawyer, or send us an email and we'll get back to you. All plans include a bail benefit of up to 5,000 Rand, and we'll go to the police station and pay it for you. Plus, Clientele Legal offers you 24-hour telephonic legal advice. SMS Legal to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
Zinzi, the Gen Z. Word on the street is you sold your car.
Yes, and you know I needed a glow up. Hashtag no hustle, no hassle.
So wait. The influencer got influenced by We Buy Cars.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely. And they came to me. They checked the car, they gave me an offer. Oh, and they paid me immediately. Easier than an Insta Live, without the weird DMs at 2 a.m.
I didn't understand half of the things you just said, but hey, We Buy Cars. Geared for the glow up, geared for you.
The Money Show.
Weekday evenings at 6.
Professor Adrian Saville, the person you turn to when you want to understand what really happened in that summit between President Xi Jinping and President Donald Trump.
There's a tremendous amount at stake in terms of the implications for supply chains, for various industrial clusters, and at least one of the parties at the table has the ability to play the long game. The other doesn't. So there's a fair chunk at risk here, in particular for the Trump administration.
The Money Show
on 702. Let's walk the talk.
The Money Show with Stephen Curtis is brought to you by ABSA CIB, advancing Red Rocket's ambitions with Discovery Green as the off-taker to power Africa's future through affordable, renewable energy.
702.
WhatsApp Clement
on 072
702
1702.
10 minutes before 10 o'clock. Let's continue with your calls and WhatsApps as we wrap up the 702 open line.
Very good morning, Clement and the team. Yeah, man, I would like to share my experience as far as this particular crucial topic is concerned. In around 2016, I was in a relationship with a specific lady in which we had different beliefs, you know. She was a Christian, and myself, on the other hand, obviously I was pursuing African religion. So whenever I'm due to perform a specific rituals, she would go mad, you know. She would go mad with me. You know, we would fight very, very badly, all the way up until we got to the point in which we separated. Yeah, things didn't work at all as a result of using or having different beliefs. Yeah, this is Maxwell in Q.
Hi, Clement. It's Tabiso from Soweto. Clement, my partner, she's Christian. She goes to church. I don't go to church, or I don't see myself going to church anytime soon, because I don't follow any religion. I was raised a Christian, but growing up, it's no longer the way that I follow. So I don't judge her, and I don't think should we get married, that should be an issue. I respect her. She should also respect my choice. Yes, which is how I live my life. I live my life simply. You treat every human being in a decent manner. You don't have to be in a particular grouping of people. No.
Morning, Clement. Clement, partner or a friend, you can believe in whatever your religion, but as long as you're not imposing anything to me, we're good. Even with my family, I tell them we have like Sabata, and some are Christians, some are apostles and whatnot. I always tell them we are family first and foremost. So the others comes last. So let's just respect each other's beliefs and religion and whatnot.
Hi, good morning, Clement. This is Edison from Pretoria North. When coming to religious issues, I think it's important for the both of you to discuss about the religious structure that you both going to follow. Because imagine if you have kids and then you follow different religions. Everyone in the family chose to take his own path. So this thing can end up creating a split in terms of religion, even amongst the children. So if you have one religion structure that you agreed upon, that you follow, I think it will also benefit you and benefit the kids in the future. That's my opinion. Thank you.
Clement, I really don't think it should matter at all what the other person believes in. I think what really matters is really your values as a couple. If your values align, then I don't think what you believe in should really matter. It's not a big deal.
Look, for some people, it is, right? One person says, Clement, I'm a Hindu seeker, and I see no conflict in faith or belief, for all paths lead towards the same eternal truth that dwells within us. The divine light that shines in the temple also burns in the church, the mosque, and every heart. Religion in its pure essence is not about conversion, but realization. It is about awakening to the same one consciousness that expresses itself through many names, forms, and traditions. And that's the thing for me, is sometimes you're forcing people to convert, but they're not completely awakened, right? You have had your own moment of awakening. There's something that urged you to believe in what you believe in, but you want someone else to just follow for the sake of harmony or for the sake of being aligned in that sense. But have they actually been awakened like that? Like, for instance, children that we raise. Like, I grew up in a Christian household. Did I know God like that in the beginning? Not really. But that's a person that I was told I need to pray to. And I'm saying, at some point, we need to have a conversation about how do we allow people to have a personal relationship or a personal intervention of sorts with whatever awakens them. Whether it's the universe, whether it's God, whether it's light, whatever you want to call it. But this constant expectation that people must just follow you because, well, this is the same household, it must have one religion. To what benefit at the end of the day, if there is no genuine, true awakening of that person through that religion, that they're just following for following? But is that what religion and spirituality is about? That you just follow people because I'm married to this person and therefore we want to have the same religion in the household? Or is it truly about the person being awakened and having that personal intervention with a God or light or universe, whatever you want to call it? Another message on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, it's a superiority complex for me, where people believe that their beliefs are higher or more superior to everyone else's. I feel like all beliefs are based on something most people can't prove. That's a message there from Lerato. Here's something I want to recommend to you guys to go check out, because I was binge watching it this past weekend. There's a series on Disney. Apparently it used to be on National Geographic. I've never watched it when it was there. It came to my attention when it came on Disney. It's a series about God. It's titled, what's the title? The Story of God. Yes, The Story of God with Morgan Freeman. Please check that out. I think it's so enlightening and it just helps you understand closely, because I don't think God is understandable. He is too big. But there's a sense that when you follow a particular religion, when you do certain rituals, when you believe, when you read his word, you get closer to at least understanding him. But that doesn't mean you fully understand God. And I think this series and what it does is help you through not all of them, because there are like thousands and thousands of religions in the world. But what they do is they go through to different countries on the continent, in Asia, in the West, and they follow people's religions to help understand the God. And most of the time you'll find that at the end of the day, it all ends up into people who follow this one big source, this powerful creator. I think it's so enlightening. I've learned so much, even about just other religions in the process of watching this, but more so about my own religion through watching this. So it's called The Story of God with Morgan Freeman. It's on Disney.
Introducing the new Grande Cheeseburger from Nando's. Freshly toasted signature bun, juicy flame-grilled chicken breast fillet basted in your choice of peri-peri. Nando's mayo, crisp lettuce, tomato, red onion, the red one, not the normal one, gherkins, creamy cheddar cheese, and finished with that legendary peri-naise. A burger so big, it literally took us almost 30 seconds to describe it, which is why you'll need both hands for it.
Smart Steve from Momentum, hello.
How's it, Butch? It's Jason here, your favourite gymfluencer.
Jason, still lifting more than your selfie stick?
Always, Butch. Got to stay shredded, eh? But like, I'm worried about one thing. What if a major illness hits? Who's got my back?
Relax, Jason. Momentum's critical illness cover is your spotter. It offers the most comprehensive cover in the market.
Woody, I'm signing up faster than I could do 10 reps. But I'm worried about something else, eh?
Let me guess. How many protein shakes it takes before you turn into the incredible bulk?
No, man. Will anyone notice if I skip a leg day?
Chat to your financial advisor about Momentum's critical illness cover. Momentum, protecting your journey to success. Momentum is an authorized financial services and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
The joy of what if we just let it go to voicemail. The joy of what if we skipped the flight for a front row seat to the open road. The joy of what if the wrong turn took us the right way. The joy of what if we didn't share this view and kept it our secret. The joy of what if not being there yet was the best part. Choose the joy of what if with BMW.
702 was in conversation with Vodacom Business on 702 Drive with John Perlman, discussing how strong cybersecurity empowers South African enterprises to grow fearlessly.
South African businesses are facing a perfect storm of threats. Ransomware being a major concern, as we've accustomed to know, especially during a time where people are moving in this digital age and they're upgrading, and with their cloud migrations as well. And supply chain attacks are on the rise as well. So if they can't target you, they'll target the third-party vendors that you are working with. And with the increase of AI, we use AI for good, but the cyber criminals are also using it for bad as well.
Vodacom Business. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Visit vodacombusiness.co.za.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. Suspected criminal Vusmuzi Matlala's web of corruption in the SAPS is set to continue to take center stage as the Matlala Commission hears about the businessman's links to several senior police officials. Recent testimony before the Commission of Inquiry has implicated senior cops who Matlala allegedly bankrolled to avoid accountability for a dodgy 360 million rand police health services tender. Upon his arrest in May, Matlala allegedly spilled the beans to investigators about who he was paying for protection. Oren Singh takes a look at some of Matlala's claims.
At the top of the list with alleged links to criminally accused Vusimuzi Matlala sits suspended Deputy National Police Commissioner for Crime Detection Shadrack Sibiya. Matlala claims to have paid Sibiya at least 3.5 million rand in cash in several separate payments. This includes a 2 million rand payment for Sibiya to purchase a plot in Midrand to convert into a bed and breakfast under the name of his wife. Witness C, a detective who was part of the team who arrested Matlala, says the tender tycoon admitted that Sibiya assisted in securing his 360 million rand SAPS contract.
After each and every payment by the SAPS for his tender, then a portion of the payment will be given to General Sibiya. And he indicated that sometimes he will pay to the total amount of 1 million a month.
Matlala further claimed he paid Sibiya 300,000 rand in cash as a wedding gift on the day Sibiya's son got married. Arun Singh, Eyewitness News.
Meanwhile, the DA's Glenys Breitenberg says lawmakers in Parliament will need to toughen up to ensure public officials accused of corruption and maladministration are held accountable to restore public trust in the country's institutions. Breitenberg is among MPs serving on the ad hoc committee investigating allegations of police corruption made by KZN top cop Nhlanhla Mkhwanazi. This is a process that's running parallel to the Matlala Commission of Inquiry. But there have been some concerns that there could be a lack of consequence when the ad hoc committee and Commission of Inquiry wrap up their work. Breitenberg says MPs cannot afford to drop the ball again.
Well, if Parliament wants to do its job at all, and if Parliament wants to do its job seriously, then yes, certainly. There's more than enough already out there for us to make recommendations that should be dealt with. And you want to bear in mind that Parliament has already once before been found lacking by the Constitutional Court, no less, for not doing its job properly. So we need to step up.
The second suspect, who is believed to be the mastermind behind the shooting of 7 teenagers in Westbury, is set to appear in the Johannesburg Magistrates Court this morning. The 35-year-old was arrested last week for alleged links to the attack that claimed the lives of 2 boys and left 6 others injured. He's the second suspect to be arrested in the matter after a 20-year-old linked to the shooting as well was arrested last week. Ntokozo Kumalo reports.
On the 22nd of October, a hail of bullets was fired on Crossier Street towards a group of teenagers between the ages of 14 and 19. According to the police, the teenagers were approached by 4 suspects on foot carrying firearms. Last week Friday, the first suspect appeared before the Johannesburg Magistrate Court. His case was postponed to Thursday for a bail application. Meanwhile, the alleged mastermind will be at the same court for their first appearance today. Ndogozo Kumalo, Eyewitness News.
And China has expelled 2 former senior government officials from the Communist Party for serious violations of discipline and law. The actions targeted the former vice chairman of the China Securities Regulatory Commission and the former vice director of the National Development and Reform Commission. The country's top anti-graft watchdog says both men were suspected of accepting bribes, with their cases described as serious in nature. Gold is trading at $4,011.41 an ounce. The rand is at 17.29 to the dollar, 22.74 to the pound, 19.96 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $65.18 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the R12m North. This is in the Tembisa area, and that's due to roadworks that are taking place along this route. Please be on the lookout and continue driving with care. While on the N3 North, more roadworks are causing delays between Vincent Chabalala Road and the Baklu interchange.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 21 and 22 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour: suspected criminal Vusmuzi Kat Matlala's web of corruption in the SAPS is set to continue to take center stage as the Matlala Commission hears about his links to several senior police officials.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
on 702.
Let's walk the talk. Streaming on the Prime Media Plus app.
DSTV channel 856.
92.7 and 106 FM.
Seven minutes after 10 o'clock, Dumelang. Welcome to the second hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thank you for staying with us here on 702. Remember, at 10:30, we're going to have a conversation about South African wars. We started a series about 3 weeks ago looking at South African wars, not laws, wars. And I've enjoyed it because I really do enjoy history, and I enjoy learning about where we come from, where we're heading. And we started that series by looking at the First Boer War. Last week we looked at the Anglo-Zulu War of 1879, and today we're going to be discussing the Second Anglo-Boer War. So that's what's coming up at 10:30. And then at 11 o'clock, for our Family Mentors feature, we'll be discussing financial abuse in family relationship. You know, this pattern of behavior where one person tries to control another person's access to and use of finances. In fact, financial abuse takes many forms. So we'll learn more about it and get your experiences as well on our Family Matters feature at 11 o'clock. 8 minutes now after 10.
702.
The Clement Manyathela Show.
Let's walk the talk.
What I want us to do now, though, is to focus on the African continent, because there are some disturbing developments. I want us to focus on Sudan, focus on Tanzania, and focus on Nigeria as well. In Nigeria, you've got the US President Donald Trump threatening to send the military to Nigeria because he's accusing that government of failing to protect Christians. In fact, Nigeria has been placed on the US's country of particular concern list for religious freedom violations, and it's warned of possible military action. That's the US warning of that if the situation does not change. Nigeria's leaders have since rejected that characterization and stressed that any foreign intervention must respect their sovereignty. And then in Tanzania, you've got mass protests that have been taking place. In fact, they erupted when opposition candidates were barred from the ballot and the ruling party declared a near 100% victory. You look at the capital, Dar es Salaam, there were violent protests there. There are people that have died. A curfew has been imposed. The army was deployed. I've got a friend who's actually in Zanzibar on holiday, and there's just no internet. We were, in fact, worried about this friend's safety because, they were not able to confirm that they had arrived. So the last time we spoke to this person was when they took off. And that's how bad things are. There's just no internet. I've got another friend I've met before in Finland who lives in Tanzania, who actually has fled to South Africa and has been here in South Africa because the situation is just so bad in Tanzania. So we're going to look at that as well. And then I want us to focus on Sudan because the world is watching and we're all surprised as we witness one of Africa's most saddening humanitarian crises. And this is a crisis that has been deepening for some time now. Months of brutal conflict between rival military factions, displacing millions of people, threatening regional stability, raising some really difficult questions about international intervention and the prospects of peace. So let's start this conversation by looking at the situation in Sudan. We've got Abdallah Hussein, who is a Sudanese journalist who is based in Khartoum, who's joining us now via Zoom. Abdallah Hussein, thank you so much for making time for us. I really, really appreciate it. Good morning.
Good morning to you and to your viewers, and thank you so much for having me here on 702.
Yeah. Can we maybe start by helping our listeners understand what the background is to what we are seeing in Sudan right now? What has led to this fresh wave of violence and what some are even calling a genocide?
Yes, indeed. It is a genocide by multiple reports from inside and outside abroad. Local and regional and international organizations have labeled this as genocide, crimes against humanity, massacres against specific ethnic groups, and also massacres against citizens. So what was happening in Sudan during the transitional period after throwing the previous regime of Omar al-Bashir, there has been a sovereignty council which includes the paramilitary leader who's treated as a rebel now, Mohammed Hamdan Dagalo Ahmeti, who leads the rebel support forces, and on the other side there has been the leader and the commander-in-chief of the Sudanese armed forces as the transitional sovereignty council chairman. One thing led to another, and there has been always rumors that the RSF are foreign-backed by several states. Some of them are Arab, some of them are international, maybe the EU itself. But nothing happened on the ground until 2023, where the RSF moved and mobilized one of their units to the north of Sudan, and they occupied one of the army's bases on the pretext that there has been foreign soldiers and foreign units on Sudanese soil, which is the Egyptian army. But there has been a lot of interactions between Sudanese army and Egyptian army, so it's not a big deal. So most analysts see this as just a pretext by the rapid support forces to ignite the war. Then one thing led to another, to the full rebellion of the RSF in April 15th, 2023, where they tried to assassinate the president, the chairman of the Transitional Sovereignty Council, head of the army, Abdel Fattah al-Burhan. They tried to assassinate him in his living, and they also tried to seize power by seizing and besieging the headquarters of the army, the main headquarters of the army's general command in the center of Khartoum. And since then, until now, there has been multiple clashes on several fronts in the center of Khartoum, in the center of the country, and now the war shifted toward the west, which is happening right now in El Fasher city that has fallen under the RSF control, which is now meaning that the RSF controls the entire Darfur region with all of 5 states in Darfur.
So what's happened like in the last week, for instance? How many people have been killed? I mean, and not so much since, maybe you can give us if you have the numbers since this fresh war began, but it looks like there's something monumental that also took place last week that was more defining.
Yes. What happened last week for 7 days, it was literally a massacre. The world cannot ignore what happened in the last 7 days. The city of El Fasher is the capital of North Darfur. Okay, it was the last stronghold for the Sudanese army in the region of Darfur. It was besieged by the rapid support forces for more than 18 months. No food, no medicine, no healthcare, nothing at all. It was besieged to pressure the army and pressure the citizens to fall for the city, and then they take the city. After 267 attacks on the city, it finally fell under the rapid support forces 1 week ago on the 26th of October. And since then, the city is under their control. And what's happening since then was just saddening, a tragedy. The reports and the estimations suggest that in the first 2 days, the 26th and the 27th, more than 2,000 people have been killed inside the city of El Fasher. The city holds inside about 250,000 people who were besieged by the rapid support forces in the city. So far, the people who managed to flee the city were about 70,000, 71,000. That leaves us with nearly 180,000 people are still trapped in the city of Al Fasher. We received reports yesterday that the rapid support forces seized the vehicles inside the city, the 8 vehicles, the vehicles that the refugees and displaced persons are using it to flee the city from the RSF. They seized all of the vehicles, leaving the citizens to walk on their foot. They have been walking for 60 kilometers, 70 kilometers in the desert to reach some safe haven. And so far, there is 180K still remain trapped inside the city.
What is the role of all these external parties? You mentioned earlier the Egyptian army. There have been questions raised about the UAE. Some have been raising questions about Manchester City and all of these parties' involvement in what's happening currently in Sudan. What are you hearing on the ground? Is that of great concern that there may be external influences here agitating this war?
Yes, indeed, that's correct. In matter of fact, there has been confirmed reports that the RSF is being backed by the UAE. And the UK, the US, and several major countries are holding from statements and anything at all, just because the UAE is a strategic partner to the EU countries and to the US. They cannot condemn their own ally. But some voices within the Congress itself, senators and Foreign Relations Committee, they are trying to voice up what's going on. They are trying to pressure the UAE to talk to the RSF, convince them of stop the tragedies and the atrocities they are committing. In matter of fact, there has been multiple reports, multiple pictures, multiple videos showing credible Abu Dhabi weapons with their markers unpacks with the RSF, their uniform, their weaponry, even some documents for Emirati soldiers. So no one can deny at this moment the involvement of the UAE in this matter. And in matter of fact, also, there has been some concerns about other countries like Chad, for example, which the UAE is using as a border to deliver aid and to deliver weaponry to the RSF in western of the country. Some of the analysts from the US expressed their concerns earlier this week, saying that if the UAE stopped supporting the RSF, this war could have ended in matter of days.
Sure, yeah. Abdallah Hussein, thank you so much for speaking to us. He's a Sudanese journalist live to us from Khartoum. I hope you're safe there. I saw the United Nations has called what's happening in Darfur ethnically motivated violations and atrocities on a genocidal scale. Let's hope that what's happening there is not going to be ignored like many, many, many other genocides or wars that happen on the African continent. Let me take you to Nigeria now. This is where you've got Donald Trump, the president of the US, threatening military action because he believes that Christians are being persecuted in Nigeria. His own advisor has tried to explain that that's not necessarily the case. There are no killings that are sanctions for Christians. In fact, Muslims are being killed as well. These Islamist organizations are really going after everybody else, but Donald Trump not buying it. And we had a conversation earlier on with Wale Fatade, who is the commissioning editor of The Conversation Africa. He was live to us from Nigeria to give us context on what's happening on the ground. Take a listen. Wale, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning. Morning from Nigeria.
How bad is the situation in Nigeria? Is it the same as the US President Donald Trump's administration is characterizing it in as far as Christians and their lives are concerned?
Well, the attacks are pretty much localized to certain areas, but the fact remains that Christians are under attack. But at another level, non-Christians who are under attack by terrorists. But that's a fact. So it's up to the government of Nigeria to protect its own citizens. But President Trump has not lied in as far as Christians being under attack in specific locations, not across the entire country.
Yeah, who's attacking the Christians, and is it only the Christians being attacked, or is it other religious groups as well?
Other religious groups are under attack as well, but the Christians are being under focus because of the persistent campaign by some Christian leaders in Nigeria and those Nigerian Christians in diaspora who have been calling attention to how their kids and their kinsmen and kin, they are being massacred in Nigeria. So those are the other things that must be put out. But for those who are the attackers, these are terrorist groups, Boko Haram and their latest cousin, I think that's ISWAP, they are part of the attackers. And then these other Lukaka or Lukawa, I can't remember their name specifically, another terrorist group. These are jihadists that have been attacking villages, attacking Christians, killing people. But I must put it out again too that non-Christians too are under attack by these people because they feel their own kind of Islam that they want to introduce is not the kind being practiced by these other Muslims.
Yeah. Okay. So the issue is not so much that the government somehow works in cahoots with these jihadist
No, not at all.
No. But the issue is that they're failing to protect
of the government is in not protecting its own citizens very well, which is the duty of a government, protection of lives and properties. Nigerian government has persistently failed in that area.
Okay. How have people reacted to this suggestion by the U.S. president threatening Nigeria with military action if the country does not protect Christians in that country? How has government responded, and how are the people on the ground responding?
Our government have put out a statement. If you have observed very well, the foreign affairs minister have spoken, the presidential spokesman or spokesperson too have spoken. But as for me, I'm not sure we actually need to counter that narrative, the genocide narrative and the President Trump narrative. I think what our government actually needs to do is to prove President Trump wrong. That's all. And you can only prove him wrong by action. That's the only credible response. Step up and protect your citizens. That's all. Step up. I mean, beyond beyond issuing press statement or press releases here and there, that is, I mean, for us in Nigeria now, or for me as a Nigerian, let me speak for myself now. These issues are being discussed now, and that's good. It shows that look, our house is not in order. So, in as much as the narrative might be persisting, as much as there might be issues when a country is designated country of particular concern, but you just have to protect your citizens. That is what Nigerian government should do. For me, that's all, and that's the most important thing.
Yeah.
And I'm not so sure that apparently I'm not President Trump spokesperson. I don't work with the State Department or the CIA or whatever. But I'm not so sure that the American government will invade Nigeria in that sense.
Yeah.
Where are they going to attack? These guys they keep on moving. I will actually think, which is the next stage when you designate a country as a country of particular concern, is identifying the sponsors, isolating them, look at the financial trail of money, ensuring their assets are frozen, ensuring they don't have access to this, and those that might be their sponsors in Nigeria might deny them visa. That's all. And I think that should be a welcome option.
Why has the government failed to really just get a hold on this and stop the attacks by these Islamist organizations? Could it be, what is it? Are they being protected at some level? Why has the government failed?
I can only speak as a citizen, and I think there's a plethora of reasons for that. Number one, our present government is more interested in the 2027 battle. That's when the elections are due again. So we have had more politicking than governance. And that's sad. So when the government fails to see itself that before election, there must be lives. Before election, there must be citizens that you are going to govern, that you are going to lead, then we are going to have this problem. Number two, we have had instances whereby our military, and I'm sure you know, we recently have a change of guards of the service chiefs, the chief of army staff, the chief of air staff, the chief of navy staff. They were all asked to step aside, and new appointments were made on their behalf, in their state. And so if you do not equip your military well, they can't fight these battles. And then the other third reason for me is the compromise between our political leaders. When the former President Jonathan, that's the last but one president before the late President Buhari, when he said there was Boko Haram in his government, people thought it was a joke. And so there have been accusations, and we have had retired defense chiefs who have spoken up, who have come out on the public and said that the government knows who the sponsors are. And so there's that compromise. There is that incestuous relationship between terrorism sponsors and people in government. So this is what we have. And so when people there have been instances whereby the list of the sponsors have been given to our government, we have not had this being blown into the open. There have been instances where the Boko Haram soldiers have been arrested. They now try to import a model whereby you say you are retraining terrorists. And for us, even at the Conversation Africa, we have published research that show that reintegrating Boko Haram terrorists who have surrendered their arms into the Nigerian army, into the Nigerian society, is fraught with dangers. Yeah. So those are the reasons that we are, as it were, citizens at certain period or in specific areas, they are sitting ducks.
Yeah.
So you could imagine, Clement.
Yeah, no, got it there. Wale Fatade, thank you so much for speaking to us. That's the commissioning editor at the Conversation Africa.
702.
Call Clement
on 011
883
0702.
And you know, one thing I've just been asking myself this morning is, why is there a refugee path for white South Africans to move to America, but not Nigerian Christians, even though President Trump claims that there is a mass slaughter against them? And that must tell you a lot about the approach of the U.S. government. They are willing to say there's a genocide against white people in South Africa. They'll give them that pathway to that refugee status. But when you look at what's happening in Nigeria, where Trump claims there's a mass killings, mass slaughter of Christians, there's not even a conversation about creating that pathway and give them, that refugee status in the U.S. What does that tell you? Yelang, you're calling us from Fendale. You want to react to that? Good morning.
Hello, good morning, Clement. I trust that you and the listeners are doing well. Clement, I believe this is nothing to do with the Christians in Nigeria. and more a strategy for the imperial nations to position themselves in Nigeria and then able to target the Sahel region. So if you look at what's been happening in Burkina Faso, Niger, and all the G5 countries in the Sahel region, you'll notice that they are realizing themselves as Africans without the input of the West, and actually they are actively disengaging with the West.
Yeah, in fact, they've been tightening ties with Russia.
Absolutely. So if you look at strategy, it would not serve the West. It wouldn't be in their interest to make it apparent that this is who they're targeting. But if you look at who the United Nations UNISS strategy covers, you're talking about countries like Senegal, Gambia, Mauritania, Guinea, Mali, Burkina Faso, Niger, Chad, Cameroon, and Nigeria. Right? So, of course, if you have an issue that sounds credible, this religious issue and coming to rescue the Christians, then that becomes your access point, and that becomes the story that is spun. But in actual fact, it's a way to position yourself as, the imperial West, and then gain access to these countries who have actively rejected the West and whatever it is, and in particular France. So I think we're looking at it from a very different perspective as Africans, and not focusing on the geopolitics of whether Trump will accept Africans into America. But there's a bigger picture, and that picture is they need access to Africa, and what better way to do it than to come into Nigeria and then be able to destabilize these nations from Nigeria. I just felt that it is important for us to know as Africans that there is a strategy at play, and we then as Africans need to view it from that perspective.
Yeah, and thank you for introducing that element as well. Someone else tweeted me about the resources, the oil reserves in Nigeria, and that this is something that Trump is trying to use so that they can exert some pressure, so the U.S. or rich people that are close to President Donald Trump can benefit from the Nigerian resources. But Yelang raises an important point about the Sahel region. In fact, we've had a conversation before on the show about the shifting power in the region and what that means. When you've got the Sahel states tightening ties with Russia, that's a clear sign of shifting power in the region. And of course, the West is not going to like that. So what are the consequences of all these threats and these intentions of intervention from the U.S. perspective? Leo on the WhatsApp line says, Clement, in Nigeria, the government is not protecting the Christians. They get slaughtered in their church. Remember, no one believed the stories coming out of Nazi Germany, only truly believed at the end of World War II. That's Lee there in Alberton. That takes us to 10:32. We were meant to bring you a conversation with someone else on what's happening in Tanzania, but we haven't been able to reach them. But yeah, I just thought we should spend some time to focus on some disturbing stories on the continent with someone in Sudan and someone in Nigeria, and hopefully at some point we'll bring you the situation about what's happening in Tanzania. Sfiso, you've got the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. Cape Town police have launched a manhunt for people behind the killing of 2 men in the metro. The latest shooting happened at the COVID informal settlements in Fuleni. The police's Wesley Twigg says the motive for the attack is yet to be established. Lobby group AfriForum says its latest court victory against energy regulator NERSA is a win for all electricity consumers. The High Court in Pretoria last Friday ruled that NERSA's approval of municipal tariffs without proper cost studies and public participation processes was unconstitutional. And Nigeria says it will welcome assistance from the United States in fighting armed groups if its territorial integrity is respected. US President Donald Trump continued to threaten military action in the West African country over what he he claims is the persecution of Christians there. Officials and experts in Nigeria yesterday have denied Trump's claims of mass killings of Christians, noting that Boko Haram and Al-Qaeda linked groups target people of all faiths in the country, in Africa's most populous country. And those are the headlines. This EWN and more at 11 or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
While travelling on the N3 North, we still have got delays between Vincent Chabalala Road and the Baklu interchange. That's due to roadworks along this route. Please be on the lookout there. While travelling on the M2 West, delays between the Crown interchange and Amalgam, Main Riff Road rather, while heading towards the Devland area, Freedom Park area. Do expect heavy traffic volumes on the Golden Highway between the N1 and Union Avenue. Otherwise, traffic lights are still out of order in Rand Park Ridge at the N1 and Beyers Nodia Drive, as well as in Edenville at Waterfontein Road and Van Riebeek Road. Please be on the lookout there. More updates coming up at the top of the hour. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Okay, truck 7, that has 0 warning lights. Truck 8, it's just been serviced. I guess we're running like a well-oiled machine. Where would I be without My Way's comprehensive cover for my vans and trucks? Plus, cover for my customers' orders with goods and transit insurance. I guess we'll never know.
Visit myway.co.za or dial 0860 64 64 64 and get a quote today. My Way is a licensed non-life insurer and FSP. T's, C's and standard rates apply. My Way. Live your way.
I'm Samela Kelboy, an actress and mom to 3 lovely kids. I worry about how sugar can make them sick. Drinking sugary drinks could lead to diabetes, heart disease, and obesity as they get older. Diabetes is one of the top causes of death in South Africa. I'm joining the fight to demand government puts our health ahead of greedy industry profits. Government must act now. Increase the health promotion levy on sugary drinks. Sign the petition on healer.org. That's HEALA.org.
A man driven to the edge. I don't know where you are. I don't know who you're with. When his beloved takeaway was taken away. I will look for you. I will find you. And I will eat you.
It's the summer of stars at Simply Asia. Stand a chance to win a Toyota Starlet when you spend 200 Rand or more on our famous flavors. Order now. Simply Asia, connecting the Thaiway.
Looking for real ways to live greener? Then don't miss Green Tip of the Week, your weekly dose of sustainable inspiration from eco-entrepreneurs to climate champions. We sit down with the people making real change. Catch Green Tip of the Week every Tuesday on Afternoon Drive with John Pellman, 3 to 6 p.m. only on 702. Proudly brought to you by Volvo. It's safe to be brave with Volvo.
Let's walk the talk.
This is Clement Manyathela
on 702.
24 minutes before 11 o'clock, we started a new series 3 weeks ago looking at South African wars, the wars that took place in this country, and getting a bit of a history lesson about what transpired. So we started by looking at the First Boer War. Last week we discussed the Anglo-Zulu War of 1879, and today we're discussing the Second Anglo-Boer War. In fact, this year marks over a century since the end of one of the most defining conflicts in South African history, the Second Anglo-Boer War, fought between 1899 and 1902. It was a war that really reshaped the political, economic, and social fabric of the region, setting the stage for the creation of the Union of South Africa in 1910 and influencing the racial and cultural divisions that would then define the country for decades. Andre Wessels is a senior professor and research fellow at the Department of History at the University of the Free State, who's going to guide us through this conversation. If you've got some questions, some inputs to make, you can call us on 011-883-0702. Alternatively, you can send your WhatsApp messages or voice notes on 072-702-1702. Professor Andre Wessels, thank you so much for making time for us. Good morning.
Good morning. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I sincerely appreciate it.
Let's start in the beginning. What led to this Second Anglo-Boer War?
Yes, well, the reasons or the causes of the war are very, very complex. Those people who are interested, those listeners who are interested, there are several books that have been written in this regard. But one could summarize it by saying that the Anglo-Boer War was the culmination of many decades, perhaps even a century or more, of tension between, on the one hand, Afrikaner nationalism, and on the other hand, British imperialism. And what, of course, sparked the war was also the discovery of gold in the Witwatersrand in 1886, and the expansion of the British Empire in the course of the 19th century. As we know, Cecil John Rhodes, for example, had this vision of Cape to Cairo under British control. And two small Boer republics, especially the Transvaal with its gold deposits, stood in the way of that dream of Cecil John Rhodes and other British imperialists.
Mm-hmm. And was this just a clash of the armies, or are we talking here ideologies, identities, imperial ambitions as well?
I think you are correct if you say that it was much more than just a clash between armies. It was indeed, in German we have the word Weltanschauung, the way in which you view the world. And here we had a clash between, on the one hand, those freedom-loving Afrikaans-speaking people. I use Afrikaans now in a very general sense of the word because at that stage the Afrikaans language was still developing. On the one hand, and then British imperialists who believed that to be a really civilized nation, a really civilized people, you had to be under British imperialism, under the umbrella of British imperialism. So it was much more than just a clash between armies. It was indeed, as you indicate, a clash between Weltanschauung, between ideologies, between different cultures also.
Mm-hmm. My understanding from what I've read in the past about this war is that there was a point where even the British adopted a policy where they started destroying farms, they were burning crops, and they were placing civilians in concentration camps to cut off support for the Boer fighters. Tell us more about that, because these camps became quite infamous for their appalling conditions.
Absolutely. The Anglo-Boer War can be divided into 4 phases. The first 3 phases, one can say, were semi-conventional phases. They were never completely conventional because the Boers didn't really have a standing army. They had a commando system, so all the citizens, all the white male citizens, were in times of war called up to fight against the enemy. So during the first 3 phases, the first phase, the Boers invaded the British territory, the Cape Colony and Natal, on a small scale. During the second phase was the first British offensive, when they then tried to defeat the Boers who had taken up positions inside the Cape Colony and Natal. They were then the British forces were defeated during the so-called Black Week at Colenso, at Magersfontein, and also in the Cape Colony. But then the British Commander-in-Chief Buller was replaced by Lord Roberts. He launched a second offensive, and he was then able to defeat the Boers on the Western Front. General Piet Cronje surrendered at Paardeberg. The British under Buller was still able to break through in Natal and relieve the siege of Ladysmith. And the Boers then realized that they were now on the back foot because they were physically and psychologically dislodged by the British offensive. And at the Kruisraad, at the Council of War meeting that took place at Kroonstad on the 17th of March 1900, they then decided to resort to guerrilla warfare. In other words, they broke up their armies in inverted commas, into smaller commando units, and they then focused on the destruction of the British railway lines, of the infrastructure, hit-and-run tactics. Now, this caught the British off guard because the British army was a conventionally trained army. And it took them some time, even although the British were in control of the capital city of the Free State, Bloemfontein, which they captured on the 13th of March 1900. They captured Pretoria on the 5th of June 1900, and they took over many towns and villages. But in a certain sense, they were only in control as far as their guns could actually shoot. And this then led to a transformation of the British Army in South Africa, first under Lord Roberts, and later during the watch of his successor, Lord Kitchener, who became the Commander-in-Chief of the British forces in South Africa at the end of November 1900.
Yeah.
And Roberts and later Kitchener then worked out an elaborative counter-guerrilla strategy. And this counter-guerrilla strategy entailed, for example, the scorched earth policy, because every Boer farm was, in a sense, a source of food, fodder for horses, military intelligence, also hospital facilities, in the sense that wounded Boers could be taken to the farms where the women and the children who were left at the farm could look after the wounded. So from a purely military point of view, these farms became legitimate military targets. What the British did, they burned down the houses. Approximately 30,000 Boer farmsteads were destroyed, but also the homes of the black farm laborers. So at least 60,000, but probably many more homes of black farm laborers were also destroyed. And now the question was what to do with these people who had lost their homes. And that then led to the development of a camp system. Now, traditionally, in most sources, you also refer to it concentration camps. I prefer to use the word internment camp because one has to make a clear distinction between the camps of the Anglo-Boer War and the concentration/extermination camps in Europe during the Second World War. In other words, the camp system that was built up by the Nazis in the run-up to and also during the Second World War.
Yeah, because that was completely different, right?
Yeah.
What role did black people play in the war, and how did it affect their communities? I hear what you say about when the farms were destroyed, some of the homes of black people were destroyed. But my understanding is that, they were not merely just bystanders in this war. Many served as laborers. There were drivers for both sides, and thousands were displaced. Can you just explain what role they played?
Yes. No, thank you for that question, because you are touching on a very, very important aspect of the Anglo-Boer War. Right from the start, both the British and the Boers said this is going to be a white man's war. But that was right from the start not the case. On the side of the Boers, at least 10,000 and probably 14,000 black people went on commando with the Boers, not as combatants, but as people who had to look after the horses, who had to do the washing, who had to look after food supplies and everything. And it was basically to serve the Boers on commando as, and I put the word servants between inverted commas. Right. But the British did exactly the same. They also recruited local black people, once again, to look after the horses as wagon drivers, who had to do general work in the British camps, etc. And eventually then, during the guerrilla phase of the war, more and more black people not only served in the British Army as laborers, but also as combatants. Because just as the Boers knew the terrain very well, most of them grew up on farms, many black people also grew up on farms on the platteland, in the rural areas. So, and the British did not know the veld that well, so they incorporated black people into their mobile units being then their commandos, because they converted many of their infantry units into mounted infantry. In other words, infantry soldiers who now fought on horseback. And thousands and thousands of black people also became combatants. In the first place, as blockhouse guards, because part of the elaborate British counter-guerrilla strategy was the erection of more than 9,000 blockhouses across the war zone. If you drive through South Africa today, and I sincerely hope that your listeners will also do this if they haven't done it in the past, there are still more than 100, perhaps even a little more, of these blockhouses standing across South Africa. Square masonry blockhouses, but also round rice-type blockhouses. So to man these blockhouses, the British had a problem with regard to not sufficient troops, although in total 4,400 and 48,735 white soldiers from Britain, but also from colonies like Australia, New Zealand, and Canada fought in South Africa. But they still had too few troops, and therefore they then used black people as blockhouse guards. They used them as spies. They used them for reconnaissance work. But during the guerrilla phase, you also had black commandos with white British officers who were in the field fighting the Boers.
Mm-hmm.
And my calculation is that probably as many as 140,000 black and also brown people served in a combatant capacity as part of the British Army during the Anglo-Boer War.
Yeah.
And they played an enormously important role in the eventual controversial British victory by the 31st of May 1902 when the Boers surrendered.
Yeah. Well, Prof, we're going to take a quick ad break, and when we come back, we'll continue this conversation. We'll look at what happened when the war ended, because we saw the signing of the Treaty of Vereeniging on the 31st of May 1902, which then led to the creation of the Union of South Africa in 1910. So you'll take us through that after the break. It's 10
We get
minutes.
told to wait for things. Wait for the right moment. Wait for a rainy day. Wait till the cows come home. Cows? Really? Well, the waiting is over because the Decophone Furniture Black Friday Super Sale is now on, and with 15 to 40% and more off everything for the whole of November. What are you waiting for? The Decophone Black Friday Super Sale, now on, in-store or at decophoneSA.co.za.
Access to the internet is vital for any country to grow. That's why the recent 6.75 billion rand digital infrastructure deal that Standard Bank Corporate and Investment Banking facilitated between Telkom and an Actors-led consortium is so transformational for South Africa. It unlocks growth and provides internet access to underserved communities who will now have access to the internet for the very first time. Search CIB Stories of Impact to watch the full story.
Standard Bank is an authorized FSP and registered credit provider. T's and C's apply.
Building a life across borders starts with choices. Visas, a second passport, citizenship, your child's education abroad. And sometimes those choices can be overwhelming. For 30 years, Sable International has simplified global mobility, including cross-border tax, forex, and wealth management, helping you make the right choices with expertise and care. Build your future beyond borders. Visit us at sableinternational.com.
We get told to wait for things. Wait for the right moment. Wait for a rainy day. Wait till the cows come home. Cows? Really? Well, the waiting is over because the Decophone Furniture Black Friday Super Sale is now on, and with 15 to 40% and more off everything for the whole of November. What are you waiting for? The Decophone Black Friday Super Sale, now on, in-store or at decophoneSA.co.za.
You're with Clement Manyathela.
702. Let's walk the talk.
It's 8 minutes before 11 o'clock. We're speaking to Professor Andre Wessels, who's a senior professor and research fellow at the Department of History at the University of the Free State. And we've been talking about the Second Anglo-Boer War. And Professor Wessels has taken us through what caused the whole war, what happened during the war. And Prof, I would like you to now take us through how that war ended, because we saw the creation of the Union of South Africa in 1910. What did that mean for this country?
Yeah. By April, May 1902, most of the Boer leaders realized that they would not be able to defeat the British in South Africa. And that then led to peace negotiations at Vereniging and also in Pretoria. And it then culminated in the signing of the so-called Peace of Vereniging, although it was strictly speaking the surrender document 5 minutes past 11 on Saturday evening, the 31st of May 1902. Now, the war left all South Africans, if I use the term as we know South Africans today as a unitary state, all South Africans disillusioned. The Afrikaner, the Boers, were disillusioned because they had lost their independence. At least 31,000 white Afrikaans-speaking civilians died in the internment camps, 80% of them children 16 years and younger. So there was enormous trauma. But black people in South Africa were also traumatized by the war. At least 23,000, but probably many more black people also died in internment camps. Once again, most of them children 16 years and younger. The British authorities had promised black people political rights if they sided with the British against the Boers during the war. But at Vereniging, as part of the negotiations and efforts by the British to reconcile the British Empire with the Afrikaner, those promises were shoved to one side, and black people did not get the political rights that they were promised. And that obviously led to huge frustrations, and one can draw a line from Vereniging to the establishment of the African National Congress in 1912. On the other hand, one can also draw a line from Vereniging to the establishment of the National Party in 1914. So those two political parties, those two political organizations that to a large extent dominated the political course of events in South Africa in the course of the 20th century, their roots in more ways than one goes back to the Anglo-Boer War and to the aftermath of the war. So one cannot understand the history of 20th century South Africa if one does not have an understanding of the history of the Anglo-Boer War. And that is why I sincerely appreciate this conversation that we have today. We are at the moment commemorating the 125th anniversary of the Anglo-Boer War, and it will be absolutely wonderful if all South Africans will either once again or for the first time take stock of their history, which includes the history of the Anglo-Boer War. I mean, the guerrilla phase of the Anglo-Boer War was absolutely a brutal phase in the war, and it contributed towards a civil war element in the conflict, especially in the Cape Colony. It also played a role in causing the conflict, one could say, to generate into a regional total war. Total war is a concept of the 20th century. But the Anglo-Boer War was, in a sense, also a total war. And as I've already said, I mean, the rights of black and brown people were sacrificed in the interest of reconciliation between Boer and Britain. And by the end of the war, the British Army in South Africa had, yes, they did indeed muddle through to a controversial victory. And Kitchener in particular was ruthlessly successful in implementing his counter-guerrilla strategy. And as I've indicated before the ad break, black and brown people played an enormously important role in that counter-guerrilla strategy. But the fact of the matter is that the guerrilla phase of the war left a trail of destruction, a trail of death, and a legacy of trauma and of bitterness, which to a large extent, you also alluded to it, indeed shaped the history of 20th century South Africa and beyond.
Do you have books that you can recommend for our listeners that are interested to learn more about this war, Prof? I've got someone who says they're currently reading Thomas Pechman's The Boer War. So they're asking if you can recommend some more authoritative material out there about this war.
Well, there are more than 2,700 books that have already been written on the Anglo-Boer War. So, I mean, I don't want to misuse this opportunity to the references to my own publications. But Bill Nasson, for example, wrote a book on Abraham Eso, a Black South African War in South Africa. There are many publications that have been written on various aspects of the war. If you want to look at general histories, you have mentioned Pakenham. There's also there are those who are really serious, who would like to do a lot of reading work. There are the books by Leo Amery, a seven volume series of books on the Anglo-Boer War. There's the official history that was written by Morris and Grant, four volumes. And Frans Johan Pretorius wrote on the Anglo-Boer War. So there are many books.
Of them.
Thomas Pakenham's book is one of the best reads that you sort of a concise book on the war.
Oh, perfect. Yeah, and also do go check out Professor Andre Wessel's material as well. Thank you, Prof, for making time for us. He's a senior professor and research fellow at the University of the Free State.
Aubrey Masango.
Weekday evenings,
8 to midnight.
Premier of Province of Gauteng, Panyaza Lisufi. What's your attitude to General Mkhwanazi's revelations on the 6th of July?
When we had a vacancy for the Provincial Commission of Gauteng, I headhunted him. I spoke to him and I persuaded him to consider applying for the Provincial Commission of Gauteng. It's a person that we need as Gauteng. Unfortunately, when I went to consult the Premier at that time of KZN, he said no. That on its own is a demonstration that I value him, I hold him in high regard.
Aubrey Masango.
8 to midnight on 702.
702.
Ready to sell your vehicle? WeBuyCars goes above and beyond to make it simple, quick and rewarding. Sell your car, bike, boat or bakkie for a great price with instant payment. Trading in or buying next. Explore over 12,000 vehicles. Plus, get flexible finance and cover options at webuycars.co.za or at any branch. WeBuyCars, the best way to buy or sell your car.
Enjoy the thrill of the Soccer Punches Challenge Weekend Edition, an all-new platform from Hollywood Bets. You stand a chance to win a share of the 5 million rand jackpot when you bet 5 rand or more on selected EPL matches over the weekend and correctly predict 10 out of 10 winning margins. Or chase the share of the 50,000 rand leaderboard prize. Entry is free. Let this soccer season bring sizzling success. Bet now.
T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is licensed by the Western Cape Gambling and Racing Board. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp help to 076 675 0710.
Whether it is a CCMA referral, problems with a mechanic, unfair blacklisting, or an uncontested divorce, Clientele Legal offers professional legal services to all South Africans. Our plans are affordable, and you receive up to 745,000 rand worth of legal services per year. We cover civil, criminal, and labor-related matters. Our nationwide legal teams are standing by to support you 24 hours a day. Plus, all plans include a 5,000 rand bail benefit. Join today. SMS LEGAL to 48721. That's legal to 48721. Clientele General is an authorized FSP and licensed non-life insurer. T's and C's online. Standard rates apply.
This is EWN.
Good morning, I'm Sfiso Zulu. A pilot from the Gauteng Traffic Police Department says he was requested by the Hawks to hover above the house of Katiso Katie Molefe with a helicopter during the suspected cartel member's arrest. Testifying before the Matlala Commission this morning, Chief Provincial Inspector George Raptopoulos says he was told there were bogus cops at Molefa's house. The Matlala Commission has been established to investigate claims of corruption in the justice sector, with today's proceedings focusing on the takedown operation at Molefa's Santon home. Tabiso Koba reports.
On the 6th of December last year, Chief Provincial Inspector at the Gauteng Traffic Police, George Raftopoulos, says he got a call from Captain Barry Kruger of the Hawks to assist in an operation of bogus cops at a Santon home. Raftopoulos says while he was in the air, he saw a message from Kruger on the operations WhatsApp group that it was a legitimate police operation taking place at the Santon home.
The information was received from Captain Kruger after I telephonically phoned him on his WhatsApp that he forwarded as legitimate operation, and I will send the commander's number.
Kruger has previously testified at the commission he never told Raftopoulos it was a legitimate operation. However, Raftopoulos insisted he got the information from Kruger over the phone. Tabiso Koba, Eyewitness News.
Cape Town police have launched a manhunt for people behind the killing of 2 men in the metro. The latest shooting happened at the COVID informal settlement in Mfuleni yesterday. The police's Wesley Twigg says the motive for the shooting is yet to be established.
2 males aged 23 and 24 were shot and fatally wounded. Police members attended to the crime scene, where they found the victims inside an informal dwelling with gunshot wounds to their bodies. The suspects are yet to be arrested.
Lobby group AfriForum says its latest court victory against energy regulator NERSA is a win for all electricity users. The High Court in Pretoria last Friday ruled that NERSA's approval of municipal tariffs without proper cost studies and public participation is unconstitutional. AfriForum spokesperson Deirdre Stephens says the ruling ensures that the organization will no longer pull the wool over consumers' eyes.
This ruling ensures that NERSA must follow a process where consumers can have a proper and fair say in municipal electricity tariff increases.
A meeting is scheduled to take place between Higher Education Minister Putima Namela and Chairperson of the NSFAS Board, Dr. Karen Stander, today. This follows the resignation of Stander, who in a letter addressed to Manamela raised serious concerns of bullying, intimidation, racism and threats to personal safety. Ministry of Higher Education and Training spokesperson Matsepo Sidat confirmed that a previously scheduled meeting with the entire NSFAS Board will go ahead as planned on Wednesday.
Minister Manamela has said how deeply concerned he is about the gravity of the issues raised by Dr. Stander, that the matters warrant serious attention and that he will engage thoroughly before determining the necessary course of action.
And Nigeria says it will welcome assistance from the United States in fighting armed groups if its territorial integrity is respected. U.S. President Donald Trump continued to threaten military action in the West African country over what he claimed was the persecution of Christians there. Officials and experts in Nigeria yesterday denied Trump's claims of mass killings of Christians, noting that Boko Haram and Al-Qaeda-linked groups target people of all faiths in Africa's most populous country. But Trump, who has directed his government to prepare for military action, doubled down on the threat yesterday, saying he was considering a range of military options in Nigeria. Commissioning editor of the Conversation Africa in Nigeria, Wale Fatale, explains the situation on the ground.
Other religious groups are under attack as well. But the Christians are beyond our focus because of the persistent campaign by some Christian leaders in Nigeria and those Nigerian Christians in diaspora who have been calling attention to how their kids and their kinsmen and kin, they are being massacred in Nigeria. So those are the other things that must be put out. But for those who are the attackers, these are terrorist groups.
Gold is trading at $4,011.41 an ounce. The rand is at 17.29 to the dollar, 22.74 to the pound, 19.96 to the euro. Brent crude oil is at $65.18 a barrel.
And in the traffic, we've got delays on the Mike 1 North. This is between Boyson's Road and the Crown Interchange. That's due to roadworks along this route. And more roadworks are causing delays on the N3 North between Marlborough Drive and the Baklu Interchange.
A partly cloudy day in store for Gauteng with isolated showers and thunder showers expected. The temperatures will peak at highs between 21 and 22 degrees. The top story in EWN this hour. A pilot from the Gauteng Traffic Police Department says he was requested by the Hawks to hover above the house of Katiso KT Molefe with a helicopter during the suspected cartel member's arrest.
EWN, in touch, in tune, and independent. For the latest, visit ewn.co.za or download the EWN app.
You're with Clement Manyathela
On 702.
Let's Walk the Talk, streaming on the Prime Media Plus app,
DSTV channel 856,
92.7 and 106 FM.
8 minutes after 11 o'clock. Dumelang, welcome to the third and final hour of the Clement Manyathela Show. Thanks for staying with us here on 702. Time for our Family Matters feature.
702.
Family Matters.
So today I want us to have a conversation about financial abuse on our Family Matters feature. Financial abuse in family relationships. This is a pattern of behavior where one person tries to control another person's access to and use of finances. It often happens when people control your money, or maybe they stop you from being financially independent, or they prevent you from earning your own income, or they start doing certain things, right? So they used to do certain things for you, but they change that because of what they are perhaps unhappy about in that particular period. And this kind of abuse within the family structure is one of the most hidden, but it's so destructive. Yeah, it doesn't always leave bruises, but it leaves deep emotional, psychological, and even generational scars. And while it may appear as love, care, or protection sometimes, it often operates as manipulation, restriction, and domination over financial independence and life choices. There are people who tell their partners, their spouses, not to work because they want to use then the financial authority they have in the household to then perpetrate that abuse or influence that spouse in one way or the other. And I would like you to share what your experience of financial abuse has been. You can call on 011-883-0702. Maybe you're dependent on someone for finances, but whenever there's an argument, they also tend to pull out the resources. How does that end up affecting you? The WhatsApp line is 072-702-1702. Dr. Tumi Mashiro is a clinical and sports psychologist who's going to guide us through this conversation. Thank you for making time, Dr. Mashiro. Good morning.
Good morning. Good morning to the listeners. Thank you for having me, Clement.
Many people still associate abuse with something physical or something verbal. How would you define financial abuse from a psychological perspective, and what makes it so difficult to recognize within family relationships?
I think let's first unpack what abuse is. So abuse is about an abuser wanting power and control, and they use certain behavior or influence or certain words or manipulation to exert power and harm over another person. And this is repeatedly done. And it's confusing to the victim most times because it's someone they trust or someone they love or someone who, they have learned to love. And abusers project misery, but they also target something in the victim, meaning how abusers use manipulation towards you will be different to how they manipulate me based on our character traits. So maybe I'm very sensitive about certain things, so they will use certain words to get me to coerce me to do something. Maybe I grew up poor, and then they talk about, but you don't want me to be poor as well, and manipulate me in that manner. And others might use things like, after everything I've done for you, right? Why are you not giving me this money? So they really study their victims, right? The perpetrators, so that they can get what they want at the end. So financial abuse then is about that control over access to the household money. At times, the person is employed, but the abuser gets to a point where they deny them to their own money, right? And again, using different strategies depending on the context of the situation. And sometimes the victim is coerced into getting loans, opening accounts, or the abuser refuses to contribute to the parenting expenses. Maybe it's siblings, and one of them just is the one always helping out the parents, and the others do not want to. And maybe it's household expenditure. Maybe it's a couple as well, where one is contributing more than the other, as the example you also gave, where money is used as control over the victim, because the perpetrator doesn't want them to work so that they can be under their control, and then they buy them things, and then statements like, my car should be home at this hour, this thing, you know what I mean? So the abuse is ongoing, and it's because abusers are miserable, and I always say misery is a demon and it loves company. So this person is triggered by your peace. They are triggered by your joy. They are miserable, therefore they want you miserable.
So would you consider it financial abuse when there is... So, because often, and I think we've had a conversation with you at some point on the show about the entitlement that some people within the family structure, they will have on someone who perhaps is the only one working or has a better job. So sometimes they treat you differently when you are unable to do certain things for them. So let's say every year there's a braai you do at home for Christmas for everybody because you are financially able to do that than other people. And then when you decide that you're not going to do that this year because perhaps you lost a job or there's something that's happened at work, you are not financially stable as you used to be, they start treating you differently, and some don't even talk to you, because those are examples I've had before on the show where people call in and say, I just feel I'm being so pressured that they don't even talk to me sometimes when I don't give them the money that they're asking for, because they assume that I must always have the money. Do you classify that as some form of abuse in some way?
Definitely it can be, because it's really about them defining you, or this conditional love, where we love you when you do things for us. And I always go back to the person struggling with putting boundaries or struggling around this issue to say, the only thing you can control is yourself. So you need to do the work, because they're going to say things that they know will get you to feel bad about yourself, right? So they might say things like, after all I've done for you. Maybe it's a parent who, just wants their child to give and actually not give to his or her own family, or put them first, before in doing anything else. They'll say statements like, but you're working, what do you mean you don't have the money? So I think it's really just about understanding that in families there can be toxicity, and as we grow older, we need to really start seeing our parents or caregivers as human beings who are flawed, and it doesn't take away the love, because sometimes we think because maybe it was a single parent who did everything that you can only but love them. But there are certain behaviors that will make you have that love-hate dynamic. I love my parent, but I really hate how they make me feel when it comes to money because of A, B, and C. So I think as an adult, you really need to heal that inner child, to know that it doesn't undo that the parent did things for you. It just means you're addressing this thing that makes you anxious, or that makes you not thrive because of what it has done to you internally.
Yeah. How does financial abuse often hide behind love or even care or responsibility? Because there are families where financial control is seen as a sign of protection. It's seen as a sign of leadership.
Definitely, it goes back to how we grow up the environment we're in, the society, but also the family dynamics. I mean, if they were functioning from a place of lack, for example, where money was associated with a certain status or freedom or whatever it is that, internally, intrinsically, they associated money with, that will definitely play out in that, you'll be defined differently because you have money. Or when you have money, you define yourself differently. Or your true character comes out when you're coming from not having money to now having money, where now you are just the worst, version of yourself because now you are feeling, that you are powerful because of your finances. So I think it just goes to show that when people have money or when they lack money, what is going on internally, how they define themselves around money can also come out when it's there and also if they lose it. Because also someone who loses a job, if they had defined themselves around money or they felt they are valued because of money, and now they feel as if they don't have an identity, then it goes to show that, this is what they had built that identity around. And when you actually see them, they are more depressed than, someone who's just lost a job because there is, compounded things happening there because they really feel aggrieved that now they don't have an identity anymore. And that puts them also at risk for, fraudulent activities because of the desperation to now get that identity and power back.
Yeah, that's fascinating. I want us to hear from some of our listeners who are sharing their experiences with us on 011-883-0702. You can send your WhatsApps as well on 072-702-1702. We're talking about the issue of financial abuse in family setups or family relationships. I think there are instances where, this financial abuse, many forms that this financial abuse can take. And maybe the ones we're often used to is when one person tells the other, no, you don't have to worry about work, I'll take care of everybody else. But actually what that is they just want to manipulate you. They just want to be able to control you. And some of you, yes, you're not working because you've been told you'll be taken care of, but you don't have much freedom. And some of you, perhaps you've got someone who used to take care of you in this and that other way financially, but whenever there's something wrong, there's an argument that happens, you're fighting over something, those resources gets taken away. What is that form of financial abuse within a family setup that you have experienced? Or maybe it's the entitlement from family members who always demanded and expected something from you because you are more financially stable. And when you can't provide that, you're seen as a terrible person and you get ostracized. They don't invite you to other parties or groups because they feel that you've taken a position not to support them. Give us a call on 011-883-0702. Your WhatsApps are coming on 072-702-1702.
Good morning again, Brother Clement. I'd like to remain anonymous on this one. Currently in my family, maybe not say currently, but it's always been there. There's a rift that's been ongoing for years and years. And it was caused by an aunt of mine, a brother to a sister to my father, who wanted to control everyone's money. And then because of my dad didn't agree to that, it caused a rift, hatred. She even went on to resent us, hate us, not being the aunt that we need. Still, even today, we don't get along with one another. And currently, what she's doing is that there's a cousin of mine who's in his 60s, just qualified for SASA, and he takes all of his money. She even goes to an extent whereby she borrows him his own money, and then he has to pay it back with interest. So yeah, such an issue. It's very, very serious and it's heartbreaking.
Sure. Yeah, it definitely is heartbreaking. Dr. Mashiro, any reflections of that before I go to the next call?
Definitely it sounds like it's quite toxic, that situation. And I wonder if they have reported her to the social workers to intervene. If it's really that bad, that's what I could really recommend or advise to the caller now, to say, that maybe social workers should intervene if that is happening. And it's quite sad if the aunt is the one taking care of the cousin or the person receiving SASSA, because obviously that will have implications as well. But I think definitely they should maybe look into bringing in a social worker on board.
Tsapo, you're calling us from Centurion. Good morning.
Hi, Clement.
Hey, Tada.
So we all hear this term financial abuse, and we understand, it's when someone uses money to exert control that they shouldn't have, as an example. But what happens when your fear of being labeled a financial abuser makes you not have the power to speak out that you really would have? So out of fear of being told no, or because I'm driving your car, you don't want me to go wherever. For example, when you feel uncomfortable about situations, you don't speak out.
Okay. So Tsapo, you have been labeled that, you're saying?
Yes.
Okay. And are you able to share with us what had happened to get the next person to label you that? What did they use as justification?
No, so I mean, over the period of a relationship, you take on responsibilities. The person you're engaging with is struggling. You put your hand up, you assist. But only to find that now, because you're assisting, as an example, if the person wants to go out with friends,
yeah,
and you say, I don't think that's a good idea, it's like, oh, now you're a financial abuser because I happen to be driving your car. When it doesn't matter whose car you were driving, this just didn't sound like a good idea.
Okay. So is this a case? Oh, so we've just lost Tsepo there. I wanted to understand if this is a case where initially Tsepo allowed certain things to happen, so you would allow your partner to go out with their friends at that particular time driving your car, but because now things are a little different and have changed, you don't allow her to do that anymore. But Dr. Mashego, Tsepo was talking about just the fear of being labeled that, because sometimes that can be used inappropriately, the term, and because you're expressing that, I don't think you should travel, to use his example, to be out with friends at this time, and then somebody else can see that as, because I'm using your car, I'm going to use your card, then that is financial abuse.
For me, it sounds like there was some manipulation. I mean, we don't know the context of the story, but I always say to people, you're an individual before you're a couple. Meaning, whatever it is you haven't dealt with, the insecurities, the struggles, you are going to bring that into the relationship. And sometimes it's just things of, I mean, he mentioned fear of being labeled, right? And if the partner was aware of this and using it to get to him, it had nothing to do with actually whether he is abusive or not, but just because, as I said, people who are not okay, sometimes they project this, they pick on things in you, then they know you will do what they want. I don't know if that makes sense. So, for example, if you don't like being labeled abusive and I keep calling you abusive, and because when I call you abusive, I get what I want. So not necessarily that you're an abuser, but because I can see that you are so fearful of being called an abuser that, I know if I throw it at you, that you're going to do what I want. So for me, it sounds like that's the case or what was happening there. But I always advise or say to people, please, when the relationship is like that, even if the other person doesn't want counseling, I think it's best you go for yourself so you're able to set boundaries. Because the minute I set boundaries and I understand my truth, even if you come at me and you attack me about my truth, I'm able to, continually still defend my truth, if that makes sense. Because if you're coming in there and you're coming from a place where yes, there was financial abuse or material things were used as power and control. The minute someone, tries to have a conversation with you, you always function from a place of that pain that you never resolved. So I think for me, it just sounds like there was a lot of manipulation from just what he said, but also that individually, they will benefit from some form of therapy for themselves to understand, their fears, their insecurities, and how that can be manipulated, but also how they project them onto the other person.
Yeah. What would drive a person, a family member, to exert financial control over whether it's their partner, their parent or sibling or a child? Is it rooted in insecurity? Is it about power? Is there something deeper there?
There's different things, for different people. For some, it's their personality, their character. They just have that, wanting to control and be in charge. And maybe for some, it's because of the order in the family. Maybe they were the firstborn and, they were the ones who everybody saw they, co-parenting with their parents. So maybe they feel entitled. Parents, sometimes it's because they struggled. And once you get employed, they feel like they're entitled to that money because they put in the work to raise you. And it's almost like you owe them. Type of thing. And that, for me, it's more a deep-rooted character flaw that the parent needs to work through. But also coming from relationships where you didn't heal, where there was such, issues around money. Maybe when you do get into a relationship, then you haven't dealt with what you've been through. Then you push this coercive control over money, or even threatening, this person that, if they do A, B, and C, that, you don't want a relationship anymore, or degrading them, because in the name of just, projecting what it is, what that's going on internally. So the thing that you don't deal with will come out somehow, if you're not acknowledging it. So if you were hurt, or if you are struggling with something, if you're not dealing with it, it will come out something. But definitely with financial abuse, is the perpetrator uses money to control the victim. And sometimes they themselves, the perpetrator, might not actually have money, and it's actually your money that they are controlling you over, and it's because they studied that, okay, this person's weakness is A, B, and C, but if I come in this way, I will get what I want. So yes, definitely the character plays a role, the environment that this person grew up in, but what they have internalized as their MO for life, what it is that how they want to treat people also plays a role.
Sure. Yeah, it's going up to 11:30. We're going to get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. I've got some messages coming through on the WhatsApp line, some voice notes as well. We'll take your calls on 011-883-0702. Have you been a victim of financial abuse in a family setup? Maybe that's your husband or your wife that's been financially abusive. Maybe it's your own parent, your siblings. Share your thoughts with us. Give us a call or send a WhatsApp voice note. Let's get the latest in Eyewitness News headlines. Good morning.
Thanks, Clement. Good morning. A helicopter pilot from the Gauteng Traffic Police Department says he was requested by the Hawks to hover above the house of Katiso KT Molefe during his arrest in May. Testifying before the Matlala Commission of Inquiry today, Chief Provincial Inspector George Raftopoulos says he was told there was a bogus cop at Molefe's house on that day. A group of frustrated informal traders is continuing to demonstrate outside the Gauteng High Court in Johannesburg today. This comes as their legal battle with the city resumes. The City of Johannesburg and the Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa are facing off in court over the city's decision to remove unauthorized informal traders. Seri argues that the city has blatantly infringed on the traders' rights to conduct business and to earn a livelihood. And Cape Town Mayor Jordan Hill-Lewis has welcomed new timeframes set by the North Gauteng High Court that will allow more time for public input into the proposed price of electricity. On Friday, the court found that the National Energy Regulator's public participation process for the 2025-2026 financial year to approve municipal tariffs was invalid. Those are the headlines this EWN and more at midday or as it happens.
EWN Traffic.
There's queuing traffic on the M1 North. This is between Boysons Road and the Crown Interchange, and that's due to roadworks that are taking place along this route. Please be on the lookout there. And heading towards Amalgam, we still have got queuing traffic along the M2 West between the Crown Interchange and Main Rift Road. There's also queuing traffic along the N3 North between Vincent Shabalala Road and the Baklu Interchange. That's also due to roadworks along this route. So please be on the lookout if you're heading towards Freedom Park. There's queuing traffic on the Golden Highway. This is between the N1 and Union Avenue, about a 10-minute hold up there. If you do see anything else on the roads, we're in exit EWN traffic. Otherwise, Karabo Jali will have your next report from the top of the hour onwards. Stay tuned.
There's more EWN on air, online, and on the EWN app.
Something big is happening when the family group chat explodes, like the Chamberlain Big Summer Splash promotion, on from 23 October to 9 November. 10% off finest 1903 paint mixing. That's incredible! Amazing deals on outdoor, braai, pool and camping gear. Even the dogs joining in with our social media puppy paw pick competition for a chance to win R1,000. And what's that? You can meet Bucky's Boots live in store at Centurion. Come make a splash with the whole family. Chamberlain, famous for hardware since 1903.
Lock into roaring rugby action this season with Hollywood Bets. Bet 50 Rand or more on any Vodacom United Rugby Championship fixture and you could win a share of 300,000 Rand in cash, betting vouchers or prizes. This includes Smeg bar fridges, macro vouchers, a Sharks captain run or a player circle experience. Only the toughest team will prevail. Bet now and let the rugby rumble begin. T's and C's apply. Hollywood Sportsbook is a licensed betting operator. No persons under the age of 18 years are permitted to gamble. Winners know when to stop. South African Responsible Gambling Foundation toll-free counselling line 0800 006 008 or WhatsApp HELP to 076 675 0710.
And the award for the spiciest stunt performed in a bowl goes to Tom Yum Cruise.
Thank you everyone. Wow, what an honor. I'd like to thank the chilies, the lemongrass, and of course, Simply Asia for believing in my flavor.
It's the summer of stars at Simply Asia. Stand a chance to win a Toyota Starlet when you spend 200 Rand or more on our famous flavors. Order now. Simply Asia, connecting the Thaiway.
702
Family Matters.
25 minutes before 12 o'clock, we're talking about financial abuse in a family setup. What have you experienced? Was it your partner? Was it your spouse, your parent, perhaps a sibling that's perpetrated this kind of abuse towards you? How did you deal with it? How have you handled it? Or maybe you have been wrongly accused of financial abuse because, maybe someone just didn't want to take accountability for certain things and they just started accusing you of financial abuse. Give us a call on 011-883-0702 to share your thoughts with us. Alternatively, send your WhatsApps on 072-702-1702. Lebohang, you're calling us from the Johannesburg South. Good morning.
Morning, Clement.
Sure.
I'd like to put something. Yeah? I was working before, so everything was okay with my uncle's wife. So 2016, when I was at work, they shot me on the head, and then I lost my sight permanently. So 2017, I was suffering financially. They didn't want to help me there. And then 2018, I received my compensation money. After I received the compensation money, she came back again. She wanted to be close to me again. So she wanted to share my money. So I refused every time when I'm in their house. They treat me bad. Like when I'm listening to the TV, she came and changed the TV. This is my house. This kind of stuff. Until my uncle decided to chase me away from their house. So now I'm no more living with them. Even when I go home, I'm from Pampersat. Even I go home, when there's a family gathering, when I'm there, they didn't want to dish me. You see those kind of stuff. So,
and they wanted to share your compensation money. They wanted you to share that with them.
Yes. So I refused. I said, no. This is for my personal use because I was financial strained for a year, 2017, the whole year. So I need to pay for my loans, areas, the accounts. I need to pay those things. So they want me to share their money. So even today, when every month I'm receiving the money on the 25, every day when I go home, they want me to share that money. I said, no.
Yeah. When you stayed with them, Lebohang, were you contributing in any way as soon as you received your money, living it with them in their house? Did they expect you to contribute in any way towards food?
Yes, I was contributing. Sometimes I left them driving their cars driving from point A to point B, everywhere, even financially. I remember one time when my uncles were suspended at work, so I was the one who was helping them. Yeah.
Yeah, no, Lebogang, in the Johannesburg South, thank you so much for making time for us. This is bringing up something else, Dr. Mashego, like people who will not want anything to do with you when you are in a moment of distress, when you lose a job or you are involved in an accident and you're unable to work, then almost like they don't want anything to do with you. And then as soon as you are now resourceful and maybe you get a compensation from RAF, whatever the case is, or you do get another job, they now come back to you because they see what they can benefit. How do you handle a situation like that, especially if these are your loved ones? Because if it's family, I mean, do you punish them? And I use the word punish for lack of a better word because they deserted you in a moment you needed them, and therefore you want nothing to do with them even when you are back, in order. Or is it a moment of understanding why they did it and appreciating that and continuing as if nothing happened?
The problem with continuing as if nothing happens, I think sometimes we want logic to emotional things, like the fact that the family deserted you in your your desperate time of need. There is no logic. There is nothing that they can say to make sense of that, right? So for them, they chose themselves in that situation, and the journey is for the person who was left or abandoned because of the financial status the situation that they found themselves in. I think the journey is for them to make the decision that just because I'm forgiving them doesn't mean I want them near. And I'm glad the caller was able to put boundaries, right? And was able to say no to them, because mostly we find that people then sometimes give in because they say statements like blood is thicker than water. We will take care of you. There's that manipulation that happens because people are driven by what you have, and they actually are thinking about themselves in that time where they want to, use that money, forgetting that you're going to need it for life. Because obviously, if he was compensated, he might never be able to work again. But that long-term sort of thinking is not there. It's almost like that immediate gratification that is driving people, which is quite sad to see when it happens in families, because he's an adult, but sometimes we see it happening with little kids who are orphaned, for example. Then the family members want to take advantage of that. If the trust is not solid in terms of where the money is coming from or the arrangement with the financial institution, it can be quite sad to see that the children are just left, even though there's money available to take care of them. So really, it's quite sad when people's true character comes out, because of money.
Here, some WhatsApp voice notes that have come through.
Hello, Clement. I was a people pleaser in my life, and it was very easy for others to abuse me, and I would want external validation. Therefore, I would end up giving my money away until I went to therapy and learned how to deal with the whole things. George, thank you.
Hi, Clement. It's Maparia report. In regards with your guest there, now I had a partner who was older than me, wanted me to buy stuff in the house. We were staying together. I went and bought she had a child. I didn't have a child. Month end, the child needs clothes. I went and took out money, pay people's account, but then it was never enough. But it came to a point where just like, you know what, let's just cut it. My advice is to just cut. Just doesn't matter what you're losing. The stress of not having enough money, it's unbearable. So just cut people off, please, guys. Please, doesn't matter who it is. If they want to abuse you financially, just cut them off. That's my advice.
Morning, Abdi Clement. Abdi Clement, on my side, I had a problem at home. I was not earning much. I remember they were supposed to be buying grocery on the weekend. And then my sister came up and said, you know what, because I was having a lump sum of 500 rands, because I was not earning much on that time. Then they ended up saying to me that 500 rands doesn't buy mele or seshebo. And I was that surprised to understand that I even referred that 500 rands to my girlfriend and see if my girlfriend can buy anything, maybe for the children or so at home, because of they refused to accept that token of money that I had. That's the experience that I had. It's Alvin in Orange Farm.
It's so unfair when we talk about contributions in a family and someone else says this is how much I can give, and that's then seen as we don't even need that. In fact, just go and see what you can do with it, because that's not going to take us far. Unless, of course, the family knows that the person is deliberately doing that, and yet they've got the capacity and the capability to contribute more. Dr. Mashiro, your reflections?
It's quite sad, yes, when family, takes you serious because of how much you earn, forgetting that we don't know what we don't know, meaning you can actually lose your job. Something bad can happen to that source of income. COVID can happen, for example. Maybe you were doing well prior and then COVID hit. Many businesses struggled. So I think it's quite sad when we define our identity or other people's value and identity based on tangible things like material things. And I always say to couples as well, when we're doing couple therapy, that for better or worse speaks to things like this. Worse can be that the provider can no longer provide. Worse is, getting into an accident and being unable to function like you were functioning before. And I think that's what we actually need to start talking about, to say, but these things of life, no one can ever predict. So it's important to understand that you are more than the income, the money that you make, and then really start doing the work to heal so that you can set boundaries. I think the one caller mentioned that they went to therapy to learn how to set boundaries. And of course, when you set boundaries, people are going to come back and say, now they think they're better now because they're working. They're not going to be impressed with you because you're setting boundaries. But again, therapy can help you so that you're not feeling guilty, when that happens, when people start judging you for the boundaries that you're putting up.
I've got someone who sent me a message who says, Clement, on this abuse conversation, in my previous work at the human rights organizations, I received a call from someone, a lady in Durban. She was in distress, in tears, helpless, and told me she needed help. She told me that she is a doctor, met her husband, who's also a doctor. They dated, had their first child, and then they got married. Life was nice, future looked bright. After marriage, the husband asked her to close her private practice and come work with him at his practice, which in the beginning sounded like a good idea. And being married, they could co-create wealth and build family wealth. It didn't take long for her to realize she had just been relegated to being his administrator, keeping his practice appointments, balancing the books. So she started struggling financially. Her independence was gone. He refused her money. Telling her he supports their children. She asked to go back to reopen her practice. He blackmailed her as she was not and told her he was not going to support her. I think this is what this supposed to read. Her family and his family agreed with him, reminded that as a married woman she should obey her husband. Depressed and defeated, she wanted to leave. He started beating her as well while denying her money. She opened cases, but he will be released to remind her how connected he was. He even made sure she doesn't get employed in both private and public hospitals as a doctor. She tried to kill herself, and every time she will remember that her kids are still young. It was painful when I listened to her. I tried to help her, lost contact when I left. This topic has just reminded me of that. It's a painful thing, Dr. Mashiro, of someone who was in love, partner says, just quit what you do, come work with me. Because when you're in love, that's what you think about, right? How do we build together until the proverbial ish hits the fan? Would you advise people to always take the lead from another spouse who tells them, leave, I'll take care of everything else? Because often that's where the abuse will begin, when you are told, stay at home, do this, and I will take care of you. And then you realize later on that this is just a form of control.
Definitely. With abusers, unfortunately, they quite sometimes well versed with what to say. They really study you. So when someone is in love, it's quite difficult, because even if someone warned this lady, I'm not sure if she would have stopped the marriage. I feel like she was so in love, and you almost become blinded to the objective view of your partner. So I'm always of view that please go for that individual sessions for yourself, right? Even if you're getting into a marriage, especially the honeymoon phase, that's where all these decisions are made, where everything seems nice, but you're unable to sometimes discern or see your partner for who they are. And I think that's where the difficulty is. But also the thing about human beings is that we learn through the experience, right? As I said, had there be warnings, this person might not have stopped the marriage. They might have just gone ahead with it, and learned in retrospect, about the monster that they were married to. But I think the warning that we can let people know is that abusers can be anybody. Just because you've got a medical degree doesn't absolve you from becoming an abuser, and anybody can be a victim. Just because you're a medical doctor, anybody can be a victim to abuse. Psychological, financial, all types of abuse exist. And I think that's the message we can just put out there for people, just to be aware that abuse is quite deep. I always tell people when I go to speaking events about my experience of all the types of abuse. Me, the psychologist, it was psychological abuse at the hands of a psychiatrist. I feel like, that is just the example that anybody can be abusive, but also the healing can happen, but you need to choose the healing. The healing will not fall on your lap. You need to intentionally seek the healing and want to be okay, and you can overcome it. But just that admission that, sure, I was abused or I'm an abuser is where the first step is. And abusers usually do not change. I think that's also the difficulty, is that if you've got the savior complex as a victim or the partner, you want to save this person. But the only person you can save is yourself.
11 minutes before 12 o'clock. Nomzamo, I see you. I'll start with your call after the break.
Bongani Bingwa, 702 Breakfast.
Weekday mornings, 6 to 9.
Are you going to spend the rest of your life in hiding?
Whether they finish me, I don't think I'm worried. I refused to let corruption reign. My children will stand on my grave and say, Daddy tried.
Mr. T, a long-time anti-corruption crusader at the Department of Home Affairs. There have been attempts on his life. Has seen the rot up close, and he says the system is broken.
Bongani Bingwa, 6 to 9.
On 702.
Before you throw it away, think again. Join the Glass Recycling Company's Recycling Challenge this November. Collect your glass bottles and jars, drop them at your nearest glass bank, and help your city climb the leaderboard. Each bottle counts towards a cleaner South Africa. Post your recycling pics on Facebook with hashtag Glass Recycling Challenge and stand a chance to win 5,000 Rand. Let's shatter records and clean up our cities with the Glass Recycling Company. T's and C's apply.
So you thought you were building a business in this economy, but day by day, somehow it grew. You kept going when the freezer didn't freeze, the bucket didn't budge, and the bank balance barely blinked. So you thought you were building a business. You weren't. It was building you. Because this isn't just what you do anymore. It's who you are. And you don't trust just anybody to protect it. Chat to your broker about Old Mutual Insure Business Insurance. Protect what built you. Old Mutual Insure Limited is a licensed FSP and non-life insurer.
To walk the talk is to turn words into meaningful actions. And it's what we at 702 are committed to doing every day. We're also committed to following the rules set out by the Broadcasting Complaints Commission's Code of Conduct to give you balanced programming, fair comment, and accurate news. But if we stumble along the way and you feel we're not living up to the code, let us know on comment@702.co.za. And if after that you're still not happy, you can direct your complaint in writing to the Broadcasting Complaints Commission, PO Box 412365, Craig Hall 2024. For more, visit bccsa.co.za. 702.
Family Matters.
8 minutes before 12 o'clock, let's continue our conversation as we are just about to wrap it around financial abuse in family relationships. Nomzamo, you calling us from the Vaal. Good morning.
Morning, how are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
I'm great. I'm a bit emotional and I'll try to be brief. So I was in a relationship with a father of my kids, and it was a joint bond. He quit his job without me knowing. I only find out in the morning when I was preparing him lunch, and then he told me that he had quit his job because I was on maternity leave, right? In the process, I find out that there's another 4 kids. Then he insists that I must maintain those other kids, plus my 2, right? And then it got ugly. He went to court to open a case against me, a protection order, in that I'm abusing him financially. Then I was called in court. I went with my payslip and my bank statement, and I proved to them that I'm the one who's working. And after that case, I saw, because he tried so many times to put me in prison so that he can access my pension fund. Then the house was sold. After the house was sold, he only gave me 5,000 rand for my 2 kids, and he took 50,000 and gave it to the mother of the 2 kids. And until now, the matter is still in court. My fingerprints were dented, but I was fortunately able to clean them out. And then right now, he is the one who's been charged with attempted murder and assault GH. So the long and short of the story is he abused me financially, and most of his family members, they are saying I left him because he is now unemployed.
Okay. When you said he had 4 kids, what do you mean, Nomzama? Is these kids before you guys met or during the marriage?
When I met him, I knew 1, then 2 surfaced. So I made peace because those kids were older than they were conceived before. But then later in a relationship, as I go to work, he was bringing a woman in our house. Some of them were even sending me messages to say, I have a child with your husband, you need to maintain and. And only now my kids are telling me that, Mommy, when we were at work, Mrs. So-and-so was visiting our house. So there was, whilst I was at work, he was busy making kids and then compelled me to make a relationship with the mother of the kids so that their kids can be able to visit our house. And that's where I pulled a handbrake and the house was sold. I thrive right now. I live in a very good estate with my 2 kids, and life is good.
I'm happy to hear that.
So sometimes you need to cut. You need to cut the umbilical cord. Yes, it's sad for my kids because they want a relationship with their father, and that's what I wanted for my kids. But I had to choose myself because after everything, or before anything, my kids also need a sane mother.
Yeah. So the kids, as we speak now, there's no relationship with the dad.
There's no relationship because the court denied him access to the kids because of that assault case and the attempted murder.
Okay. Nomzamo, please be safe. Thank you for sharing your story with us, and I'm glad to hear that you are safe and you have got a home with your children. So thank you for sharing that with us. Here's a WhatsApp voice note that's also come through.
Clement, I'll be anonymous. Clement, my wife, she always wants money. So every month end, I give her 9,000 rand. The next day, she has nothing. Not even the next day. After I gave my money, after 4 hours, there's nothing. Even to buy one piece of bread, nothing. Clement, nothing. So I always ask myself, what am I doing here? Even, Clement, I don't understand, really. I really don't understand. The next day, even 20 cents, she'll be asking me for money again, while knowing very well that I've got nothing. I gave you everything.
Yeah. Dr. Mashiro, any advice for someone in a situation like that?
I think the 2 stories are indicative of how much we're living in a wounded society, Clement. people are walking around, they're carrying wounds, and it plays out in how they relate with their partners, with their children, but also the people who are struggling, like the gentleman who says he's giving money to a partner who just spends it immediately. He also must do the work within for himself, and I'm not blaming him. I'm just saying that as victims also, they need to look in to see, what is it about me that this abuser is pushing over the edge? What are they taking advantage of? What can I do to ensure that I can set boundaries and protect myself, and see the situation objectively for what it is, love aside? Because if he keeps, repeating the same habit, meaning giving money which he wastes, and there's no evidence of where the money went, then he needs to cut that cycle himself. It won't be easy, but he can be assisted, objectively to get that help to break that cycle, because obviously then she's spending it somewhere or saving it, like we don't know. But I think he needs to just get help to ensure that he empowers himself as an individual, and then make a decision to say, how do I proceed going forward? Do I stop giving her money? Do I buy the things myself? Or do we divorce if they're married? Or what happens going forward? But I think he really needs to empower himself. As I always say, you're an individual before you are in a relationship.
Yeah, Dr. Tumi Mashiro, clinical and sports psychologist. Thanks for making time.
LLB graduates can fast-track their legal career with the Law Society of South Africa's PVT School for Legal Practice. LPC accredited, this 4-month practice-ready course, which is taught by practicing lawyers, can reduce your PVT contract by 12 months for admission. Study by day, after hours, or via distance at campuses nationwide. The first 2026 intake runs from January to April. Applications close 31 October 2025. Apply now at lssalead.org.za. That's lssalead.org.za.
In a world where everything is instant, some things are worth slowing down for. You took the time to build a life of distinction. Every moment, every milestone, every decision. At Indwe, we take the time to understand your world and craft insurance solutions to protect it. Because true peace of mind is the greatest luxury of all. The right insurance starts with a conversation. It starts with helloindwe.co.za. Indwe Risk Services is an authorized financial services provider.
Trust is earned when it's put to the test. The certainty your data is safe. The knowledge that when threats evolve, you're ahead of them. Vodacom's cybersecurity protects what matters. From national networks to enterprise IP, your data stays secure and your people stay connected. Search Vodacom Business Security. Together, let's build the extraordinary. Vodacom Business. Further together.
Coming up
on the Midday Report
with Mandy Wiener.
Hello, Mandy. How are you doing?
I'm well, thanks. How are you?
You were watching cricket yesterday.
I was watching cricket
Nail-biting.
between Halloween festivities.
What's popping today on the
show? So the president is chairing a retreat meeting of the GNU party leaders. We'll find out about that. The Matlala inquiry, hearing more detail about the high-profile arrest of KT Molefe. Joburg traders protesting outside court. We've just had a judgment handed down there. So we'll get more information on that with our reporter who's there. The former president, Thabo Mbeki, is calling for an overhaul of how we elect a president. And as you mentioned, heartbreak for the Proteas. We'll wrap up the weekend sport.
Yeah, what do you think was wrong there?
India, very hard.
Yeah.
Very, very hard. I think that the atmosphere, the crowd, I think that the more finals we play, more chance we'll have of success. It's a great team. They've got the talent.
All right. More on what happened yesterday in that Women's World Cup final on Mendy's show. Thank you for listening to the Monday edition of the Clement Manyathela Show. We'll be back again tomorrow between 9 and 12. Have a beautiful day, my friends. Bye-bye.
This is EWN.
Good afternoon, I'm Bali Lamini. Let's begin with news just in. The Gauteng High Court has ordered the city of Johannesburg to accelerate the process of verifying and registering informal traders. The Socio-Economic Rights Institute of South Africa took the metro to court after it removed informal traders operating illegally or outside designated areas. During the proceedings,